welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Sarah Griffiths, Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, John Kays, Tommy Swagnuts, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bo Snail, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Dal West Watson, Muted, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
No. What I mean by that is
quadrants,
because
divide a square into 4 blocks. So there's 4 quadrants. Now your Big Dipper will be in the top left for 3 months. And then it'll be in the top right for 3 months. It'll be in the bottom right for 3 months, and it'll be in the bottom left for 3 months.
But what I'm saying
so
though,
it's always there.
6 months
it's just
later,
your latitude.
Yes. What I'm saying though is 6 months later, you won't see it no more. And then not until like you're exactly right. It's there, but the sun's there, so we can't see it. And then
that's not what I'm saying though. I'm saying I see these things at night. Oh,
yeah.
So now I got to pay even more careful attention because now you're making me think I'm nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So when you right now,
I've seen Orion's belt every night for the last 8 years.
Oh,
okay, not every night. There's been
4.
nights that rain or whatever, and then you can't really see stars. But in terms of every night, I go out and I look up at the Southern Cross, and the Southern Cross also moves into those quadrants throughout the year. But it's always pointing towards where south is, but either pointing with a leftward vector or a rightward or an upward left or upward right vector. It's always pointing towards south. And I see those 12 months of the year. So for me, that was the thing that really made me scratch my head, because if there was a different 6 months from now, then it would make sense that maybe we're looking into a different sky while we orbit the sun. Then it would make sense if you did see completely different stars 6 months from now. Right. But the orientation of the stars may be just lining up near your horizon. So that's why you're losing them for certain months of the year. But they are technically still there doing their little circle.
No. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they aren't there. What I'm saying is, okay.
You know what you're saying, man.
Okay, all right.
You're saying we can't see them.
Yeah, because the sun's there. But when
we
the sun
can see them, we're telling you we can.
Okay, so if you're seeing them, that means that you're not having seasons then.
Well,
because that means the sun.
You just move on a different angle.
The sun is on us. Okay, if you trace the sun circuit and the moon circuit, you'll see that every day the sun goes a little bit behind than the stars. And over a course of 6 months, the sun's position at noon, and I'm doing this all relative to noon. At noon, the stars have gone further right than the sun. And then 2 months pass by, and now the sun's that much further away, lined up at noon, celestial noon. So then, and then before you know it, another 6 months goes by, and then it's right back to where you started. If you started clocking it, just what I suggest is just look at it tonight, and then look at it a year from tonight. You'll see the same stars that you're going to see tonight in a year from now. And then look at it in 6 months. Look at it in 6 months, and you're gonna realize, wait. So if I stood looking right at my driveway, and these are the stars, in 6 months, those stars are gonna be either to the left or to the right. I don't know which way your house faces, but it's going to be further, and then it should come to a point where you no longer see them right in front of you because they are on their circuit, and the sun is now either coming up at a time where it's blocking them out. They're there, but it's blocking them out because it's sun time. It's daylight. You get what I'm saying? Like I said, the flat Earth map explains it like perfectly. You have the map or no? Or the app or no?
Okay, that explained it. That explained it much better. Now I understand what
You
you're
say
saying.
the app?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
David White's app?
Okay, look it. I'm gonna look.
Look,
I'm gonna do a screen share so you can see.
So what?
I have it right here.
I
It
just wanted
doesn't
to say
really
that-
matter what you're telling me. Once again, it matters what I see. But
Yeah,
to
yeah.
give a fuck about an app,
What he's
Well,
talking
because
about is
because
so, 1 second, I'll help you out. What
that
what
drift-
this lad is talking? Hang on, please. What this lad is talking about is sidereal and solar time. They work different. Sidereal time is about around 4 seconds faster, or 4 minutes faster. Sorry, 4 minutes, 4 minutes faster every day. So that's what
look at how
the
each
star
day.
is.
If you're looking at my,
Yeah.
you're right. But if you look at my screen, look how each day the sun is now going through that horoscope, right? Or that month. Okay, and every line between the lines between the celestial horoscopes is a month. So as you look, as it's getting look, it says Friday, February 11th, and then February 12th, and then February 13th. By the time it gets to March, it's going to be whatever. I don't know the what
I
do you
can't
call
see
them?
anything. What are you looking at?
Nobody's
Look at my
looking anything,
screen.
it's just talking.
Discord live stream.
Yeah, well, you can't see that, but that's okay.
Okay.
It's talking. It's fine.
So if you look at the what are they called? The things that make up in the sky. I'm totally blank right now. The
Celestial
zodiac
ne-
sign.
Zodiac.
The zodiacs, right? So like if you look at it's January 31st right now, right? And this is if you look at where the sun's at in according to that zodiac, whatever it is, I don't know them. I know that the two fish are Pisces, there's Ram, and then there's whatever. There's Sagittarius, there's Scorpion. Anyways, this is the month that the sun is in, like lighting up that. So you can't see that zodiac sign because the sun is going to be too bright to see it. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not there, but it's there. Now, when I hit play, you're going to see that every day that goes by, it's going to get a little bit farther behind. And if I did this to like, let's say April, then you're going to see that celestial noon, like the sun's noon, is going to be covering, let's say Scorpio, which is something that you would see in your night sky right now. But because in come April or May, the sun's now covering Scorpio, you're going to see the opposite of that, which is what we're seeing now in our night sky. Does that make sense?
I
Makes
just
sense.
wanted to comment
Yeah,
one
ma-
thing that
Go on then.
does it change monthly or annually going through the zodiac? So when they talk about that it's in the house of Scorpio, or it's like this year is the year of Aquarius. They say that the sun is rising and setting in Aquarius. Doesn't that mean it's the full 12 months? Or are you saying that in 1 month it jumps per zodiac?
No, yeah. In 1 month, you're gonna see it right now. The sun will jump. So right now, see how we're in February 27th, and now it's in Pisces when it was just in the other one. Get what I'm saying? And I'm talking
It's
about
still in the
Stop.
same-
Everyone stop.
It's still in the same
look,
one.
Guy, I appreciate you've got like a basic understanding of astrology now. Great. And now no one's going to moan that you're not an expert, but I assume you've got an overriding...
I'm not at all.
No, I get that, but I assume you've got an overriding point that you're trying to make here, rather than just saying, "Look, I've learnt some basic astrology." So, what's your overriding point that you're trying to make?
No, so what happened was Harp was saying how he's always seeing Orion at night, and I told him, well, in 6 months, the sun on its circuit is going to be lighting up on the other side of its circuit, and so you should have a different night sky, and that's how this whole thing started, Nathan. And then I opened up the flat Earth map because I said the flat Earth map explains it like perfectly. I think. I mean, at least better than most can explain it on this basin, flat world that we actually live in. That's
Okay.
what I was getting at.
Okay, your description was fine, other than one thing, as far as I could say.
What was it?
Well, in there you've got a claim, right? In your description, you're saying that the sun is physically the thing that's blocking out the stars, which are there, you just can't see them. That was the claim that you've made.
Correct.
Well, you don't need to make that claim. You can describe it and say, well, it's like, if you imagine they're on a big carousel and the light is just blocking what's behind on the carousel, if you imagine it like that.
Exactly.
But if you say it is like that, which you did, then suddenly you've got a claim to defend that you didn't need to. Other than that, yeah, great.
Yeah, you're right about that. but
It's a dome.
I just want to point out, we're in April now, and now it's in, I think that's Taurus, right? The zodiac of Taurus. So that's what you would see in the sky.
Okay, stop.
January.
No. Go on, Brian. Sorry, I've got another objection, but go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, we're in the end of January, not April.
Yeah. So I know. So that's what your night sky should see right now when you're looking up. You should see those, at least according to me right now. So this is me right now where I'm at, and the sun's already right here in the sky, and well, off in the distance, you can see it's not even like over America yet, but the sun just came up. So clearly there's some light on America. You can see it on the map. But when it was nighttime, those were the stars that I could see on nighttime.
Okay.
And then in 6 months from now, it will be the other side. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So as much as I want to hear you go on and on about this, it's good that you're interested in it now, because obviously the fact that you weren't before and now you are means you're researching it. But in terms of these patterns, these patterns that you're describing are so well established. Did you appreciate that? Because you're telling us what they should and shouldn't do, but they're patterns that are known, very well known.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
You need to tell Nathan what you're looking at to come to the conclusion. What are you looking at?
DITRH's moon calc.
Exactly.
And what he's doing is he's scrolling it forward day by day and seeing where the position of the sun is lining up with the stars.
Cool.
So that was the point.
Okay, cool. So you can look at this stuff and see that it works. Great. Yeah, it's worked for a significant period of time after people have logged it. Yeah? It's like, at one point, if imagine it like a clock and say that all of these houses are, I don't know, 12 numbers on a clock, just to give you a comparison. And you say that the clock hands are spinning along with the face, the dial itself, the numbers are all spinning too. You go, okay, I can conceptualize that. But there was a point where, with the same example, no one knew where one would be next. Well, now it seems obvious, right? It's going to move around a little bit. But until someone's actually logged all this, you can't be David Weiss and take that information and put it into an application that shows you where they're going to be. You've got to have all the information first. So, I don't want to decry Dave Weiss's model, because it's great. There's nothing wrong with it in terms of utilising it as a tool to show people how the world could be as opposed to what they understand, as long as you appreciate it's just a model. But yeah, this stuff is this is the oldest part of the discussion we have in terms of what I can say for sure. People have known this stuff for a very long time and get primary sources to show that is the case. One of the few things that goes back a long time, actually. There's very few things that go back very far, shockingly. But this is definitely one of them.
Yeah, and that's why I only brought it up, because it was questioned, and then we were talking about, before you guys jumped in, we were talking about how they were saying that they could see Orion in the sky, or I'm sorry, Orion's belt in the sky, and then I just made that comment, and then we got it. We've been diving into that since, but that's all.
Sure. But what I'm just saying is your discussion isn't going to bear fruit when it's the understanding of this is what's turned into heliocentrism and geocentrism and various other models and concepts and ideas about how to describe the stars. So this is the starting point. So I only say that because there's very little, if anything, to really argue about in this respect. The things we argue about are how that information is then twisted and turned into reified spheres and things like that.
Yeah, that's what that I see. That's why I like that he made this kind of like to describe how they would operate on a flat plane, because a lot of ballers will use that. Like, well, how do you explain stars and they're spinning this way, and how do you explain, the way you see it? So they're using this built model and incorporating the stars, and I feel like explaining it to them, because a lot of them don't even know this. They had never seen this before with the zodiac over the flat plane, and then there's this calculated, every day that goes by, and the year, and the speed at which they are, turning accordingly to the way you see them in the sky month per month, year after year. And then that's, it's like we're taking their data, but we're showing them how it really is compared to how they think it is, because they think you're on a spinning ball. But
Here's
that's
the
why
problem, bro. So
Be
you
careful.
keep telling
be
me
careful.
I'm not seeing these stars every night, and I do
Hold
all
on.
year long.
Be
You
careful.
just switch positions.
Be careful what you say, because you're just literally in your last statement, which was unnecessary also. You've just reified Dave Weiss's, let's get it clear, model. A model,
Correct.
that's all it is, so it's not how it is. No, definitely not. A way of appreciating how the world could be described, that's a model. How the world is, no, definitely not.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, and you're right. There's no way that we're gonna ever know. And I mean, it even says in the scriptures that no man's gonna, who can measure it, and who can, measure the depths, or to measure the corner from corner. And so I do believe that we can't even truly measure it. But with the baller, it's at least a starting point. Like you said at the beginning, at least it's a starting point to try to get them off away from this ball spinning around the sun, it's planet spinning around the sun idea, to at least to get them on a path that's leading more towards the truth.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Arwin, the Adam Meakin, Refracted Curvature, 10th Man, Neil, Brian's Logic, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Greetings.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Hello. Any more? Any more for any more? Keen lot that you are on a fresh week of debates? Clearly not.
What is it you want us to say?
Well, it was my cue to let anybody who was discussing stuff in the pre-show carry on with the conversation before I completely ruined that mood with housekeeping. So, did that conversation need to continue?
Well,
No, I
what I
think
would
that's pretty
say
good.
about it is, yeah, all I'd say about it is that something I forgot about myself, and I made a mistake because I asked a question concerning it some while back to the Globers, is that the globe belt rotates in sidereal time. So that's how they make up for most of that's how they can make up for most of what you see in the sky. They rotate at the same, it's claimed to rotate at the same rate as the stars, not the same rate as the sun. Or, well, if you know what I mean, it doesn't rotate in solar time, only sidereal. It orbits the sun. Not
Who've
really.
been
Right, and so if you're claiming that I can't see these stars when I'm telling you I can, and you're like, I don't know, the globe will come back at you and say, "What are you talking about?" They will agree with me, and they will say, "Yeah, Harp's proving the globe." So be careful what you're saying about watching.
right. So, what we've got, just to fill the audience in, is we've got a discussion going on about a model, and that model has got descriptions of the stars, and there's a disagreement on the panel about what can or cannot be seen according to this model. Now, this model is a flat Earth model, and the danger of reification is just as true for us as it is for the globe believers and their model. And the preface that's being given is just be a bit careful about what you claim when you state that a model is how it is, when it's just a description of how the world could be understood or described. It doesn't make it the world, the model, that is. So that's a reification when you describe it in that way. And all we're going through, or we have been going through in the pre-show, was the movement of the stars, something that's very well established and well tracked, well documented, etc., etc. Anything else anybody wants to round out so we don't disturb housekeeping?
Yeah, if you're going to be looking at the stars or tracking them, you're going to need an elevation angle. So
If you're going to be measuring them, that would be angles.
yeah,
to
you're
them.
going to be doing anything.
Right, you're going to need a flat plane.
Yep.
Okay, let's start there then. Any evidence that you can have a curved adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle?
Well, I hear a lot of claims from the borders that you can have, but I have yet to actually see one of these curved adjacents being used.
Someone want to present something? Who's got their screen up?
It was, yeah, just
Click on
to go
hide.
back.
Click hide, just so I haven't got that ugly thing.
Yeah, sorry. Ugly. Sorry, Nate. There you go, full screen. It was just something I caught over the weekend while you were talking about this and models and stuff. It's just a little contradiction. I don't get it, is my point. So some like telescope dude, Knoxboy 24, he's taking these images which are always the same of Orion, and he's put them into 3D, which is a weird thing to do, and then demonstrate parallax, which I found very weird from a baller's perspective, because it's one of the contradictions of their model. So to then bother to do it and show how Orion would look different from different angles.
Oh, hold on. Let me get you straight. He's modelled it, but in his model, he's showing that based on the varying differences, you would have parallax, and he's showing. So we can take this and show how the globe model parallax would be like this, but it isn't. This is very useful. Thank you for debunking your claims of distant stars at varying distances causing parallax we don't see. What a clown.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stars shouldn't always be the same.
Yeah, we should have parallax.
Well, they're not.
Well, the pattern
They
that we
have-
see is always the same, right? Except for the angle within that apparent sphere of the stars.
Throughout the
But
night.
the way that the stars are divided among one another is always the same, so no parallax.
And I'm not going to have apparent parallax either, i.e. the following day they've moved in their position, therefore parallax. No. Parallax, right? If you're on a train, the very fact that you're moving along at varying distances to the scenery means that they move relative to your position, or appear to move relative to your position at different rates. That's parallax. Well, what have we got in terms of the heliocentric description of the stars? Well, they're all at varying distances as we turn beneath them. So there should be parallax throughout the night. There isn't, by the way.
I don't know about throughout the night. But
Why not?
the
Why not? In a heliocentric model, you would absolutely have parallax throughout the night.
how much angular change would be expected to be seen throughout the night?
Well, as you're travelling at a given speed, moving your position with the relative world that is the stars in a heliocentric model wrapped around you, you're moving with relation to all of it at different rates because they're at different distances, ergo you should have parallax. You don't.
Yeah, but what distances would they be considered? Like, how much parallax should you see in a night?
A lot. They're at varying distances, therefore there should be varying rates of parallax all over the place.
Well, if you're in a mountain range and you look out and there's distant mountains, not all those distant mountains are at the same distance, but they all seem to move together as you move. Does that mean that they're all should move at different rates depending on how far you move?
Well, hi guys.
If the
Can't we
mountains
use,
were also...
I was gonna answer him.
Hold on,
Go
ahead,
on,
Eli.
Noel.
Just one sec, Adam. I heard Eli first. Go ahead.
Can't we use, say, instead of 2 stars, the moon, the stars?
He's saying that you should be parallax with respect to the moon and stars because the moon's at a much closer distance. Well, yes, also, but go ahead, Adam.
Well, the moon does demonstrate that, doesn't it? Its relative position changes throughout the night because it is tracking differently. The point with regard to the mountains is if the mountains were also moving, the only way that you would prevent that would be if the mountains were moving to keep the same level of perspective just for you as the observer, wouldn't it? But if they were also moving along their own independent path, then you would definitely see it. The reason you see, and it supports the premise, doesn't it? The reason the mountains aren't demonstrating it directly when they're so far away is because they're static and static in relation to each other.
This is all in respect to the housekeeping question. It's just you that's brought this up in regard to this video, Adam. So did you want to round anything out in this regard?
No, it was just what the guys were talking about, what the skies and stars can prove in the pre-show, what I just caught, and it just jogged my memory. It just in my timeline, it was this, and I thought that's just an odd thing certainly for a heliocentrist to go and do, because it just puts all sorts of questions in your mind, and especially the way you see you contorts it, the extremities that this thing will go to. So
yeah,
absolutely, just an odd one.
So
thank you, boys.
Another interesting thing is we discovered who was the originator of the sextant challenge that Bob put forth. It's not McToon. It's a guy called Protothad who was attempting to be on your show Friday, but obviously he didn't have a show. So he's planning to come again this Friday because he's only available this time block on Friday. And he's going to explain the whole sextant to us. Don't worry about it.
Oh, right. Well,
oh yeah.
Has he, presumably he's been and watched what we've responded to with already, and the response was to say, you're starting with an angle measurement. You've already got this number that you're asking us about, or these numbers that you're asking us about. Well, those angle measurements required you took an elevation angle, and that means you've got a flat plane to get them. Did he address that?
His contention is that he's getting it off the vertical, which of course, when you take the reciprocal angle, you still end up with a horizontal plane, which he did admit.
I couldn't have said it better myself. It's not just between your vertical, which you'll be establishing from horizontal in the first instance, with your sextant. Any globe preconceptions will be corrected for to give you a flat plane. So you can take an elevation angle. The difference between your, what they call zenith, they're taking a zenith measurement. Yeah, between that and the horizontal. That's what you're taking when you measure the angle. So either he denies that it's got a relation to the ground at all, in which case what use is it, as he's trying to describe where to find ourselves on the ground? So that makes no sense. So you can't just deny that it's got a relation to the ground when that's specifically the purpose. So he's tried to dodge it with a bit of
speak for
subterfuge.
himself
Go on, sorry.
in the future, but he took it backwards. So you're saying that you're correcting for the sphere, right, to bring it flat. He's saying I'm creating this flat horizontal and then I'm correcting it with the dip angle. So he's looking at it from the opposite direction.
Yeah, but the dip angle's bringing a geometric, non-visible horizon up to the flat plane. So he could be doing it afterwards. Doesn't change the fact that he's bringing that geometric horizon up to the flat plane he's actually measuring. That's what's actually happening.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine.
Absolutely, but it's a sleight of hand because all that you have to do is just rename it to the celestial horizon.
Well, we've only got
accept the dip. Accept the dip. Accept what the dip is, and then say black swan.
Exactly. So what he's claiming is the dip correction in this regard is a correction for a geometric physical horizon formerly known as Earth curve. Any evidence of a physical geometric horizon formerly known as Earth curve?
Well, couldn't you get rid of that if you just went with the Eratosthenes claim proof, where just use sticks and shadows, remove the observer or any geometric horizon from the equation?
We could argue about that, but no, not in this example, because we're talking about specifically about tangent planes when they make this explanation. Well, tangent to what? Well, a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, that's their tangent point. Well, they haven't got one anymore. Black swan, as Adam pointed out already. Maybe reiterate your point, Adam.
Yeah, so if they're going to move, or if you're going to let them move past the premise that you can balance a tea tray on top of a ball to create your tangent plane, what they're doing when they take celestial navigation is make a statement that you have to make a correction. The purpose of that correction is you are on a tea tray. So when you're looking over, you're not looking over the plane, you're looking at the leading edge of the ball. And you have to make that adjustment because you're dipping down, the dip angle to the horizon. But in their maths, that dip is a physical correction based solely on height and R. And as we can demonstrate, then therefore that dip correction is not for that purpose. It doesn't comport to that black swan. Yeah, it's not where you say it is. Therefore, you're not drawing a tangent line to that and then adjusting for that to make it level to create the tangent on the top. You can't be doing that because it's not there.
So in summary, you're taking a measurement off a flat plane because you must. That's how you're going to get your angle.
Well, that was my point. That was my point with Eratosthenes, though. Like, why argue about dip angle with them when all you're using is a flat plane in that description?
Yeah, but if they use this sleight of hand as is being described by Citation Police, then you can point out that their sleight of hand requires a physical tangent point to claim their dip correction, and they haven't got one anymore. So if they've employed the sleight of hand, you can hand wave it. It isn't relevant. You're right, John. But ultimately, they're still going to, as soon as you try and hand wave it as irrelevant, decry that it's the most important thing in the world. So you've got to attack it.
Well, what I'm saying is Eratosthenes, in his angle measurement of the sun, didn't have a physical geometric horizon within that measurement.
Still had to take an elevation angle, though.
Right? He just used the flat plane and sticks and shadows.
Correct.
According to history.
Yes. He still had to use a flat plane to measure these angles. Shout out to Sasha,
right. So
who's hopefully forgiven me as he had a bit of tete-a-tete with Paula. Thank you very much indeed for the support. Unitox Femu, he says 500 miles, straight line, 2 sticks. Then it's done. Right on. So no evidence of this tangent point, formerly known as Earth curve, their version of a horizon physical, blocking things, debunked by the Black Swan. Any movement on that? I'll take that as a no. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety? Nobody wants to talk about Earth turn. Okay, fair enough. Moving on. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating... Oh, now someone wants to talk about Earth turn. Go, go, go.
Just saying, you're going to need that for that.
You are going to need R for that. Yeah. Rotation rate.
Need a flat plane for R.
You're going to need a flat plane to get the R. That's right, also. I like this game. So, self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of said presupposed spherical Earth. I'll take that as a no also, then. Fair enough. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
You need a dome.
You need containment. I don't know what the sky is. If you claim to know what the sky is, please let me know. If you're an audience member and you feel you know what that blue bit with clouds seemingly below it is, then tell us. Obviously, we're going to quiz you about how you've demonstrated that, proven that. Logic won't do, I don't think. Logic leads you to containment, not dome. Sorry, Adam.
I was trying to trigger Neil, but he must be busy.
He must be. No, I don't know. We'll see.
No, I'm not busy. I'm waiting for people to come in.
I was about to say, are we allowed to use deductive and inductive logic?
Say again?
I was going to say he almost committed a logical fallacy there, but caught himself. Aha. You're on point.
Phil B from the chat says pendulum, presumably in response to any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety.
Oh, really?
Go on, Neil, you take that apart for us.
I'm busy.
If Earth was a sphere and it was turning to cause a pendulum to deviate from its back and forth motion, so pendulums take a back and forth motion, that's their inherent property, back and forth only. Well, if you are to observe an apparent deviation in a pendulum, as is claimed to be the case with a man-made device known as the Foucault pendulum, then that implies that Earth is turning beneath the back and forth swinging reference frame, that's inertial, of the pendulum, as a claimed to be non-inertial turning reference frame. So you only see the pendulum seem to drift because Earth is turning beneath it as a non-inertial turning reference frame. So that would mean that we've got two reference frames, Earth as a non-inertial turning reference frame and a pendulum swinging in an inertial reference frame, because it's not attached. Its swing is in the inertial reference frame. Anything not attached is in an inertial reference frame. That would include things like footballs, ergo Neil deGrasse Tyson's example of a football being kicked and curving through the goalposts because Earth is turning beneath in the same way as claimed to be the case with the pendulum that Phil's claiming in the chat. So, if Earth is turning underneath footballs and underneath pendulums, then it's also turning underneath hot air balloons, drones, helicopters, aeroplanes, you if you jump up and down, and you would notice that. A flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles would take about an hour and a half because Earth would be turning underneath it for you to be on the ground seeing that plane seem to drift like the pendulum does, or like the football does, because it's claimed in those two examples, being claimed by Phil in the chat, that Earth turns underneath the pendulum, non-inertial turning reference frame to cause a Coriolis deflection. That is what that is known as and claimed as by the globe. That is claimed we have Coriolis deflection, Earth turning beneath things to make them appear to drift. So, we turn underneath hot air balloons and they appear to drift? No. We turn underneath aeroplanes and they seem to drift? No, it would shorten flight times. We turn underneath hot air balloons and the continent that's we're attached to drifts away and the next one along comes to the hot air balloon? No, Earth is not turning underneath hot air balloons. You launch your drone on the equator and it whizzes away at 1,000 miles an hour, not because it can fly at 1,000 miles an hour, but because Earth's turning underneath it as a non-inertial turning reference frame to cause it to seem to drift away because it's Coriolis effect. No, that does not happen. So while people may claim, with a parlour trick, that a pendulum is demonstrating Earth turning beneath the pendulum, then that has implications that are far wider reaching that we can demonstrate do not happen on a larger, wider scale. Flight times are not reduced to an hour and a half from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles. They take about 4 hours, because Earth's definitely not turning beneath them. Hot air balloons can take off and land in the exact same spot they came from. Why? Because Earth is not turning beneath hot air balloons as a non-inertial turning reference frame, claimed to be the case with pendulums. I'm done. Anybody else got anything to add?
Do you remember the argument with powered flight? And they also would say that Earth and atmosphere move together.
If Earth and atmosphere move together, then there's no Coriolis effect to observe because there's only one reference frame. They're moving as one, therefore one reference frame, not two, as required by the globe claim of Coriolis effect. So no, when they say they move together, that wouldn't cause the effect that the globe claims they have. That would be drifting apart, seeming to drift at a rate that you are moving beneath the item not attached, like a football or a pendulum. However, we'd notice in a hot air balloon or a drone filming the game that's supposed to see drift under the ball when it leaves the ground. Well, then the drone and the blimp would also film the effect as they drifted, not attached to the ground, but they don't. The second one you said was powered flight. Coriolis effect is only capable of being observed from the roundabout, or in this instance, a claim to be turning Earth. So you must be observing the plane seem to drift from the ground to call it Coriolis effect. If you're on the plane detailing how it's got powered flight, then you're not detailing Coriolis anymore.
Well
said.
The primary premise has been falsified. Earth doesn't have an axis that we can measure.
You need half of that.
Right.
Why are you going to ruin Nathan's whole...
No, he led me to ruin it for myself, which is much nicer. I like that. Thank you, John.
You'll need
Yes,
a
sir.
flat plane for that, or
You'll need a flat
There
plane to
you
get that
go.
out. That's right. I like this game. Housekeeping's a lot more fun recently. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No, absolutely not.
No, because there's no viable hypothesis for it.
Are you being kidnapped? Are you in the trunk of a car right now?
Sorry, I just fixed it.
According to Sean
Viable
Hawkins,
meaning-
that's why we have gas pressure, because of gravity.
Viable meaning that your hypothesis is basically just your supposition as to what caused the phenomena that you're observing. So your independent variable is going to be manipulated, or your assumed cause is going to be manipulated to try to recreate the phenomena observed. Or it won't, which will give you the no, which what makes scientific method empirical in the first place. But no, there's none of that.
Any scientific evidence of gravity? With that being said,
No.
shout out to you.
It's impossible.
Say again. Go ahead.
It's impossible. It's an invalid description of a phenomenon that's never been observed.
Perfect. Nice summary. Shout out to Unitox Femi, who says, there is no cure for cognitive dissonance. You are on your own. Yeah, that's very true. It's only you lying to yourself in cognitive dissonance, right? When you're in cognitive pain, it's because you're holding two positions simultaneously, one that contrasts the other or contradicts the other. Well, you don't have to do that. You don't have to hold both positions as true. You can assess it from a different angle and decide if any of it's true. You don't have to hold either position, potentially, but some people hold both. It's just nuts.
There is a cure.
There's a cure for cognitive dissonance, not necessarily if you say flat
Yes.
Earth, given the pre-show conversation we had about a model.
No, you just have to abandon everything you've been indoctrinated with, and then you'll find the cure.
My wife found a term for that. Unschooling. You ever heard that term? We homeschool, so that's...
Oh, yeah.
Can you break that down for me? It's a new term on me.
Yeah, don't let your schooling get in the way of your learning.
So what's the point? Let's not get into this. This isn't necessarily related at the moment. It might be in the future part of this show, we'll see. Probably not. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No.
No.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun, which I've heard being discussed on a few other platforms over the weekend?
No, you're going to need the one-way speed of light for that.
Oh, well, that's all right. If we're going to need the two-way speed, you just get that from the one-way speed, don't you, Brian? It's easy.
Well, no, I said you're going to need the one-way speed.
Well, you just divide the two-way speed in half, don't you?
No.
Why not?
Because the two-way speed is based on 4 pre-assumptions and 2 averages. It's a calculation that has nothing to do with any measurement. No one measured it. It's not real. It's only made up. As Einstein stated, it's a convention that's agreed upon.
And the angles that you're going to...
Can't we just agree to divide it by 2? Can't we just agree
Yeah.
right here, right now? Let's just divide Einstein's concept by 2 and have that as the one-way speed. What's wrong with that? Does it not work mathematically?
That brings up a problem. How can a convention that's agreed upon have nothing that goes faster than it?
It's just a convention. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not reality. I mean, after all, we're talking about gravity. There's no phenomena in physical reality. There's no problem. We're just having a little bit of fun with maths, aren't we? Does no one realise that? Oh yeah, the whole Western world thinks that there's actually a force. What a bunch
Wait,
of
I thought we were
idiots
talking
were.
about the distance to the sun.
What about it?
I thought that's what we were talking about, the distance to the sun.
We are.
Yeah, and?
Well, Nathan said gravity.
Yeah. We were talking about the one-way speed of light and the two-way speed of light. And Einstein. Try and keep up.
Well, just to make it easier, if you're going to measure where the sun's position is on a flat plane, how are you then going to assert it's a ball to say there's a distance to it?
Oh, that's easy. Well, first you take the measurements of the angles off a flat plane, and then you use that flat plane to derive things like R values. Ignoring the fact that you got the measurements from the flat plane, you can assert with the flat plane measurements that you're on a sphere. Didn't you know that? I thought you knew that. So, ballers.
Right.
Just as a quick summary, listen, if you're watching live and you can, if I've got PVR turned on, rewind 25 seconds and listen to that conversation again. Because I'm going to state it as a summarised statement. In order to claim that you are on a sphere, you will first require measurements off a flat plane. This is a fact. Powerful stuff, John.
That one hurts a lot.
It's going to leave a mark, that one. Did we do all the housekeeping questions?
I don't know about a mark.
I don't know about a mental mark. I think so.
Well, what I was, if as a prerequisite before you could enter the argument, you had to presume you were wrong about the argument.
Yeah, let's just
Could
assume
you even
Earth is
enter into
not
the argument?
sphere-shaped and utilise the flat plane that we actually dwell atop to take some measurements so that the assumption that I'm wrong about it being a sphere can then be proven incorrect by trying to take the flat Earth measurements and turn them into a sphere with R values. So yeah, you've got to first decide that you're going to debunk your own claim that you're going to go forth to try and claim. As nuts as that sounds, that's also a good summary.
I think that's more than a mark. That's like a boxer stepping into the ring and then beating the shit out of himself while his opponent looks at his teammates like, what's going on?
How come we never spotted it? Even when QE said, Conspiracy Cats has taken this measurement off a flat plane, how does he get his elevation angle? To be making all these claims about angle differences. How's he making that measurement without the use of a flat plane? Look, he's even disclaimed it. I'll give you a flat plane first, because he's got to. Even then it didn't fully sink in. It's like now you go, how the hell did we miss this? Even when it was literally slapping me around the face like a wet fish, I still didn't notice. They needed a flat plane first the whole time.
I know that was one of the arguments we were making against them when they first came at it. Like what they were talking about the angular size of the mountain and the mountain in the distance. Like that's one of the things we were asking them. Like, how did you do that with your globe?
Yeah, how'd you measure the angle?
Yes,
it's an elevation angle measurement. And what would you be using to do that? Well, a sextant. If they were taking anything. They weren't. They were using pixels. Well, it never dawned on me that the reason they're doing that is because the moment they pick up a sextant, QE's been saying this for the last 6 months as well, they can't even look at a sextant. They can't get close to it. That's why they're counting pixels.
They're still counting pixels. I've heard them be over with Bevan then, trying to claim they're counting pixels. I heard Flat Earth Math at that stuff only a few nights ago. It was Friday night. Counting pixels. He tried to tell Bev you can measure something by looking at a photograph and counting pixels. Like, that's where they're at. They're lunatics.
I don't know why anyone would mess around with Charles now. I'd got a Skype message from Anthony, and he'd basically screen capped a few messages back and forth with Charles, and he's like, literally, because he's a bit more, how can you describe it? Not concise. I don't know what the word is for lawyer speak, for detailed and accurate. He was detailed and accurate, laying out Charles's lies. And he really did go to great extents to say to him, here are your lies. Here is how you have lied about them. Here is the examples where you've lied about them. And here is the proof that they are, in fact, lies. He's done that 3 times to Charles. And then sent it to me. So I was like, yeah, I've emailed him and said the same thing I did to his show. You know, you're going to bring up your kids again? You liar. Apple won't fall far from the tree, Charles. Little sod. Bringing up his kids when he's having to be called out on a lie for R. That's what people who are scum do. Throw your kids into the mix the moment you've got an awkward question to answer. But that aside, it's just, there you go. There's your lies laid out for you. Like with me, just doubles down. And Anthony was like, I had to block him eventually. The guy's just dishonest. I'm like, yeah, exactly. That's why I wanted to go on his own show and make his audience well aware of it with an overt example he couldn't get around and had to mute me to try and get around it. Well, that's what liars do.
Well, yeah, it's a sleazy tactic. You know, you throw your kid in, and then when you're attacked on the point you're making, then you can make it seem like you're such a victim because you're wanting to talk about your kid and the fact that you're a liar. You know, you don't want to discuss that. You want to discuss how you're being attacked for being called a liar while you're talking about your kid. It's disgusting behavior.
Yeah. Tactics.
Sorry, go on there.
I was just going to say tactics of a liar.
Yeah, well, I mean, if he throws his kids into the mix, well, instead of answering an important question and answering it honestly, then maybe somehow he might be able to wrangle some kind of conversation that's not about the awkward question, or make a claim that someone said something derogatory about his children or some nonsense. It's anything but answer honestly.
Everything they say is dishonest.
Not necessarily. I don't disagree with you on that score because everything they say is based on a lie. That's different. A lie must have intent behind it. You've got to have, knowledge and understanding of what you're doing, how you're saying it. And when it is, as it is in this instance, laid out, I'm not talking about my highlighting of Charles' lie. We won't rehash that. I did enough of that when it happened. But Anthony is really specific, very detailed, gathers good evidence. He's a trained lawyer. So that's what he does. So when he's broken it down to me, and I'm like, at first glance, I was like, yeah, he's a liar. But then I kind of gave it a bit more consideration. I'm like, no, he's gone the extra mile in this regard to really show Charles how and why he's lying about something. And when it reaches the point that person's tripling down and quadrupling down on their lie, that's the kind of point that Anthony's just like, I can't deal with this. This person's so dishonest. Those are pretty much his words, not verbatim, but that's the sentiment. For Anthony, that's block 'em. Well, that's Anthony and him highlighting someone like Charles. That's flat Earth math for anybody who doesn't know who we're talking about. That's the stage that Anthony presumably wanted to get at, rather than take me at face value with one instance that maybe you could try and wangle. It wasn't with forethought. I don't think so, but I don't know why Anthony's gone to the extent he has with flat Earth math. Similar extent to me, but off air.
Personal grudge.
If Charles Flat Earth Math or anyone else is claiming the Earth is a globe, then that means they're automatically claiming that there's a radius to that globe, and that radius, as an average, is 3959 miles. That is their average radius. It has to be. There is no other way out. The globe can only be the exact size it is because it's based off of flat Earth. It's based off of elevation angles to Polaris. That's what it's based off of. And ignoring of the perspective, they just took all those elevation angles and took them all into the center of the globe after they took them off a flat plane. There is no other way the globe can be any bigger, any smaller. It has to be exactly the same size as it is.
And those elevation angle measurements to Polaris, I'm not going to take this glory. John, can you just summarise your point off the back of what Brian's just said, please?
Sorry, my kids got me distracted. You can go ahead.
Brian, I want to hear you say it. This is something that you've brought to the forefront in terms of the requirement of a flat plane in the first instance, and Brian's detailing how they will take elevation angle measurements to Polaris. What they're going to need for that?
Need a flat plane.
Right. I mean, this is the same argument I said we should take a few seconds over earlier on in the show. But Brian's really labouring the point at the moment. I'm just worthy of a plug, actually, Brian. Go and subscribe today to Brian's Logic. He's killing it.
Not if you're a baller, you won't like what you see.
Oh, if you're a baller, then no, you'll have a nervous breakdown subscribing to Brian.
Yeah, because I can challenge anybody who believes in a globe, and I mean anybody, no matter how far up the rankings they are, on where did your radius come from. Right, I won't say the word measurement. I just say, where did your radius come from? And I can guarantee you, there must be 900 plus out of 1,000 won't have a clue, and the rest of them will be might have a clue. I know where the radius comes from. It comes from a flat plane, and I can prove it and show it every day, all day, every angle to Polaris, regardless how far away you move from Polaris. With the exception of going south of the equator, then the baseline of that angle will be going straight from your position, because it's the bottom of a right angle, and it'll be going to the GP of Polaris. Every single one of them. That's where your radius came from. Sorry, Nathan.
No, I'm interrupting you. Absolutely, it's the main crux of the point.
That was hot.
All right, on. I mean, I was discussing this with my wife yesterday. She showed me something on Facebook because I'd been moaning. I was saying, I don't know about Facebook. Maybe I can get more publicity and grow my subscriber count and therefore my revenue by having publicity on Facebook. And so she was like, I'll have a look. I know Facebook. And first thing she did was show me some baller that's bleating about something about a flat Earth model not working in whatever way. And I just didn't care. And she was like, quizzing me. I'm like, well, why is it that you just don't care anymore? You know, you're not keen to go and educate this guy on how he's wrong. And I was like, well, do you want me to tell you why he's wrong? She was like, yeah, I do. Now, because it's my wife, obviously, I took the time to explain why he was wrong and what he was doing and what fallacies he was employing. It took quite a long time. But she was like, well, why don't you go get in there and do all that? And I was like, because I don't care. And she couldn't quite understand it. So I had to break it down for her. I know we've done this on the show before, but bear with me. You reach a point where when you know you are right, how does the Oracle put it? Balls to bones. You know. Suddenly, you're less concerned with convincing others. It's weird how that works. So when you're not 100% convinced, I'm not going to single out anybody on the panel at all. Neil, when you're not 100% there with your conviction, you desperately want to convince others. I don't know how it works.
10%, yeah.
Say again, Neil. Don't know
I'm
why
110% there. I don't know
I'm
what
just
you're
joking.
talking about.
In days gone by, you were the example. You're not anymore, which is why I make a joke of it. I know that's the case. I've said in many occasions that you are equally up there in terms of the panel. That you're all equally up there. You wouldn't be on the panel if you weren't, Neil. I'm just joking. Anyway, the point is that you reach a point where you stop really because you're not trying to convince yourself anymore. That was the point I'm trying to get to. Because you were already 100% certain in your mind, you know exactly why you're certain. And should anybody out of the blue challenge you on it, you know you can deal with it if you're going to have a comprehensive discussion about it. But it might take a comprehensive discussion unless you're really concerned with that person and are willing to put in the effort. In the case of my wife, I love her, then I do definitely want to put in the time if she's asking. Most of the time, that's not true though. And I haven't got any motivation to convince myself by convincing them. In other words, if I can convince them with what I've got so far, then I'm right, aren't I? That just is me not being 100% convinced in myself. So, I've forgotten where I was going with this originally now. I've lost the track. Maybe
you were
someone can help
talking
me
about
out.
how you talking about how you were talking to your wife and she was looking for you to do something on Facebook to correct some baller and you didn't care about it and she didn't understand why.
Yeah, because once you've reached the point that you understand the argument and you've got absolutely rock solid proofs of what you are convinced of, your own convictions, then your apathy, your concern diminishes because it's no longer self-related. Your concern, when it's seemingly directed at somebody who disagrees with you, is actually internally directed. You just don't realise it. You're not 100% convinced, so therefore you need to argue all day with everybody who's not convinced also, because they're more strongly not convinced. You just think you're convinced at that point. So the reason I've got to all of this, thank you for reminding me, Brian, we're in, and I wanted to gloat for the last 15 minutes of the show, an extremely strong position that I've never really, up until the last 12 to 18 months, maybe a bit longer, really felt that we were in up until those points, where we're sitting pretty. There's absolutely no cognitive pain whatsoever. Nothing I understand about my world sits in contradiction or violation of any law of non-contradiction. So I'm not worried about it. There's no stress on flat Earth, so to speak, for me as an individual. Once the show's over, I'm not deeply concerned, even if there's been a seemingly dramatic, hopefully I've hammed it up enough for it to, gather and garnish a few views. But in reality, once the show ends, I'm not stressed about it. I'm not concerned about it in any way, shape or form anymore. I know the Earth's flat, balls to bones, like the Oracle would say. So, I just wanted to see if anybody else wanted to gloat about the very, very strong position we're in. There we go, there's finality coming to my rant. In respect to what John and Brian have just been discussing. In order to claim you're on a sphere, in any way, shape or form, you will, fact, require a flat Earth first. Now, making these statements makes me not necessarily think that going forward we must see the collapse of heliocentrism. It just means, yeah, this is the obvious and observable nature of reality, regardless of how much I was convinced by those statements when I said them initially. Now, I don't have to, because there's no concerns. I'm never going to be proven wrong in this regard. I'd have been shown something in the last 7 years. That's never going to come. So do I stress about it? No. Do our opponents stress about it? Yeah. They dedicate significant cognitive processing to this problem, this cognitive issue, this right that can't be wronged in their mind. Right, it's a sphere, let's go out. No, you can't prove me wrong on this. That's pain. A pain I don't ever get to experience anymore. I'm done.
You're talking about the difference between knowing and believing, though. Like, when you believe, you establish conventions and you try to convince everyone of how right your convention is. When you know, it's just that.
Yeah, I'd agree. In most instances with flat earthers, they believe the earth is flat.
I recently, weekend before last, I brought out a couple of short videos, and one of them was on this. I just used this photograph that was used as a claim of Earth curve for a couple of years, definitely up until
the start of 2020, not after that so much. But it's still now they're back trying to claim it, let's say, right? But all I got in comments was, you didn't go and check out the distances. You said it was only half a mile or a mile. It was actually 15 miles. You didn't do this and you didn't do that. You didn't get your calculations right. You never went to the curve calculators. Like, why would I be doing any of that? I was talking about the photograph and what the actual cause of it was. Not for a moment was I trying to match it to a globe. The globe doesn't exist. Why would I care what a curve calculator says or what distance it is? Who cares? I was pointing out how it can't happen, how that couldn't happen on a globe, how this photograph used to be claimed to be a globe proof, blah, blah, blah. And the whole premise of what I did and what I was saying never got addressed, because all I got was people telling me, and I got 2 or 3 people, like Where's Wally and some others, made videos about how I wasn't able to get my facts correct and get all the information about this photograph, right? It's information I had years ago, and I could get at any point, and I knew where to get it. But I don't care. I don't care about curve calculators. I don't care what distance it was. It doesn't matter, because it's only on a flat earth. It has nothing to do with a globe. Globes only exist.
But Brian, how does it compare to the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator?
Yeah, exactly. Well, there you go. It's like, all I had to say to him is, what are you talking about? Your horizon is, your geographic horizon is it's a mathematical thing. It's all nonsense. Like, none of them could answer me. Even the people who made videos. There was 2, 3 people made videos about it. None of them could give me an answer on what was the premise of my video. They couldn't understand it.
Nah, it's just an opportunity to talk about how sphery is based on the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator and its assumption of an R value we've debunked with Black Swan. Just another opportunity to compare a photo to that calculation that automatically assumes the thing they're looking to confirm.
They're trying to pull you back into 2015, 2016. That's what it is.
Yep, indeed you do. Or they're new to the subject and have only just seen the rhetoric, which is more prevalent than ever if you search the subject. So they'll find that from the mainstream anti-flat earthers. They'll still be peddling curve calculators, obviously, because they've stuck their head in the sand when we debunk them. Shout out to Moop for joining as a lion. Really appreciate the support. Thank you very much indeed for joining as a member.
Adam, you going to say something?
I was just going to agree with Nathan. And Neil there. We've got the knowledge now, and that's why we're confident in our own skins. Just doesn't matter what weapon they bring to the table. We can dismantle it with our eyes closed in seconds, you know? I don't go chasing folks in. I might pop in a Discord chat every now and again just to do the other night, you know what I mean, for a bit of fun. But it's not something like if I see somebody spouting, even if I'm in the room, I even feel the need to intercede necessarily, because I'm comfy where I'm at, you know what I mean? And I enjoy doing stuff like this, actually chatting with people about real stuff now, taking the stuff forward. So looking at the things that are of puzzlement still, not necessarily expecting to solve it and understand things like I used to think I did, but just, you've used the phrase, looking at things with wonderment now. There is something, though, I read last week that is a bit scary. If the ballers can pull it off, they might be able to get elevation angles. If you can get a space plumb bob working, then we might have an...
Oh, God. Hold on, I've got to... No, some people in the audience might not get the joke. So Zanik came in the other day, I trimmed this out, and the beginning part of the bit I trimmed out, which is, I think it's got... I can't remember what's on the thumbnail or the title, it doesn't matter. Adam's talking to Zanik about taking off, going thousands and thousands miles away from Earth, and using a plumb bob pointing back at the sphere Earth and the position that's now rotated away from where you took off from. Take it away, Adam.
Well, that was his claim, wasn't it? That you just point it at the spot where you take... I'm saying, but we're all halfway to the moon because we're trying to make sure. But so we've now got... And this was the point I wanted to do, because this was what the NASA videos were basically saying. You know, look at the star, find a bit on the edge of your ball, and take that angle. And I say, it was quite telling for me, because the resolution in Zanik's mind was to invent a space bob. a space plumb bob. It was the only way you could see to resolve what is clearly just absolute gibberish nonsense. You know, sextants in space, edge of your ball, that's your horizon still. But we talk about cognitive pain, but there it was, because he reverted to that as a retort, which, you know, ended in the ridiculum as he tried to defend it even further, didn't we?
Well, he did try and double down on it, but the second attempt, when he's got me going, no, we're going to gloat about your DOS twice failures in this regard. So, no, we're not going to babble on with you changing the subject. We're going to gloat about how stupid it is. And we did. So he then dropped it and was like, okay, right, on the ground, we'll measure an elevation angle. Okay, how are we going to do that without a flat plane? So then he lied. Don't need 90 when you're using a sextant. Oh, really? Here's a citation. Liar. Yeah, it's not welcome. It leaves a really nasty taste in my mouth when people are more than willing, rather than going around in a circle, things like that. I'll tolerate that, right? Because that to me says, okay, the person's in cognitive pain. They've got to reassert the original position, even though they're now reasserting a different position, having been led to it. That's cognitive pain. When they just lie, for example, saying you take your elevation angle by any measurement possible. You're like, what? No, that's not what he said. He said by any means, you calculate, that's what he said. You calculate your angle of elevation by any means possible. I don't think that's verbatim either, but it's close enough. That's an overt lie that strikes at the heart of our argument, because you're going to be measuring an elevation angle. But if they can do as this current sextant challenge has done, and start with the angles, then you don't need to concern yourself with the fact you need a flat plane for them. Well, if you start with them because they've been, what's the word he used again? Calculated by any means possible, well, then you don't have to worry about it, right? Here they are already written down. Someone else has gone and got them. How? Well, it doesn't matter. By any means possible. Here they are, got the numbers. Well, no, they needed a flat plane to get them. That's our argument. So lie. Oh, did you get them by any means possible? No, you don't. That's the first attempt at a lie. Then he lied about needing 90 when using a sextant. So, what, again, striking at the very heart of our argument by lying about the very definition of an elevation angle and what it's being utilised for when you're doing triangulation. Well, you know, that's a lie again. Sod off, liars. I'm not going to tolerate your overt lies. And then laughing about it just like Charles Flat Earth Math did when he was caught in his R lie, his radius value lie, which we've detailed already twice on this show, so we won't go through that again.
Sounds more like by any means necessary, not any means possible, because there is no means possible. But any means necessary would be more appropriate.
There's only one means possible, and that's off a flat plane. Fact, it must be flat to do this.
Well, yeah, but when he's attacking our argument, he's attacking the base of his argument too. By throwing those angles away
man,
like
you're
that.
on fire today, John. That's epic. Oh, right, you want to attack the fact that you don't utilise an elevation angle off the ground in your reassertion of a definition of elevation angle measurement with use of a sextant. You're going to need that to be the case if you're going to derive an R value from a flat plane with angle measurements. That's how you do it too. You need a flat plane because it's got to start that way, hasn't it? Oh, you're on fire, John. I love it.
Yeah, they're trying, but it was like Adam said, any weapon they bring will be a dull imitation of the one we're using. You know, it'll be like a cardboard cutout of a gun instead of an actual gun at this point.
Soap and boot polish.
Yeah, they're done.
Well, Zanuck talking about a plumb bob in space. I mean, I'm not talking about Einsteinian current, right? Current Einsteinian. I'm talking about NASA, who claim old and busted force of gravity. Within that paradigm, how is the plumb bob going to go down? You know what I mean? What's making it go down within your paradigm? You know,
it
not
isn't.
near the Earth.
He relinquished the argument before we got further into fast, Brian.
Yeah, and
so that reminds me.
Go on again.
Sorry, you could go ahead first, Brian.
No, it's okay. Go on.
Well, that just reminds me of the distraction that took place over the course of maybe, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years before I finally said, yeah, it's flat. What happened was, because of, all of the flat earth chatter, I got a hold of some globe information or some globe rhetoric. And me being just me on a personal journey to suss this out, I said, well, how do we know the distance to the sun? And you just run into assumption after assumption after assumption, and you never get to the part where there's a direct measurement or something that can be known or is known. It's all based off of assumptions. And when I got to the bit where it's like, well, how did they know that Venus was the same size as Earth? How did they know the size of Earth? There's no actual answer.
Oh no, there is an answer, and they're going to need a flat plane to get it. That is the answer. That was John's point earlier. It's been on fire, this live show. But with that, I have to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you first and foremost to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
This headset, bro, is tripping.
What?
My Bluetooth headset is freaking tripping.
Well, isn't that just tough?
Yes, it is.
Have you guys seen that people who've recently had the medical treatment are starting to give off Bluetooth signals?
Oh, come on.
Next time
You can't talk about that.
Number one, well, he could talk about that. Number one, because it sounds ludicrous. So,
It isn't though. So let's not start about it.
yeah,
on this
let's just
show.
not talk about it.
Yeah,
then.
but what
I
if
don't
the
care.
reference to he can't talk about?
Yeah, but what about if you can't talk about it here,
Oh God, no,
choose another show.
I'm not going to have this. I'm not going to have this be the next 10 straight minutes of us deciding whether or not we're going to talk about something that's an unrelated subject that there's specific rules about that we aren't anywhere near at the moment, but we could get near if we carry on.
Yeah, you can bring it up on my early bird show.
There you go. Subscribe today to Arwin. Starts an hour before the debate's typical scheduled time. Go and see him.
Yep, you're welcome to bring up such subjects at my show.
Quickly, somebody bring up
That's
the
the first time I
Bible. or
heard that.
something.
Apologies.
Oh, no, Elijah.
I only
Just somebody
commented
shoot
if
Adam in the
someone
face.
else brought up Bluetooth.
Yeah. I thought you might have gone for a coffee there. I was about to dive in myself there. I thought.
Elijah had a good point,
Arwen
though,
knows about Arwen knows about it because he watched Nano Man.
La, 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 la.
Yeah, so bring it up during my show, not this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody else-
No, I don't mind. Everyone stop a second. Arwin, just plug
You
your show
already
again.
watched?
No. Every time someone brings this up, Arwin's going to plug in your show. Go ahead, Arwin.
Yeah. ARWIGN channel. Flat Earth Early Bird Show starts 1 p.m. Amsterdam time, 2 hours before the Flat Earth Debate live show starts. I interact directly with chats, just me, auditory, and the chat. So you get in chat, bring it up, link it up if you can, and we'll talk about it during my show, not the Flat Earth Debates.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear Eli's point finish. Eli, can you finish your point?
Yeah, he had a good point about their methods. Well, I'll go ahead for you, Eli. what he was.
Yeah, I thought. I mean, I was
What he was
perfectly fine
saying
with
is-
you doing so. Go ahead, John.
Well, it's their whole point is that they can't know anything for certain. That's where they start from. That's everything to them. So everything in their world will be inconclusive, but they have a conclusion about what Earth is. And if you try to talk about it, they'll just try to convolute it. And he was talking about that tactic.
The heck with tactics. I'm so bored with this. I started coming up with hold on 1 second. I started coming up with my own joke because I'm in the construction business. So I'm trying to construct a joke, but I'm working on it.
Boom, boom.
Damn, that was pretty good.
Only if you're a builder
So
could
me
you get that
being,
and
you
like
know,
it.
I don't know what you just said. But me being, you know, just one individual, not thinking about the whole, there is no whole when I first embarked on this journey for knowledge. It was just me. And I heard someone say the moon landings were fake and that there are no pictures from space. Now, that wasn't enough for me to become a flat earther, but it was enough for me to brush up on what I thought I knew about the globe. And I got down to the one thing that mattered. Who measured the earth? And no such thing has ever happened. But they'll try to give you justifications, or they'll try to give you a set of axioms that you must accept already. And that just wasn't enough for me. However, when I came into this arena, the only thing that the anti-flat earthers here did was spin my wheels and waste my time, because I had already reached a conclusion. So when I got here and I started having conversations with other people, all of a sudden, things that in retrospect that aren't really that important became important. Like how to go into Narnia and debunk the lie. Before I fully understood, you know what? You don't have to deal with logical fallacies at all. You don't even need to go to Narnia. And someone's want or need to go there is not your problem, not your business. So that's when I began to relax and take it easy.
Exactly. People are entitled to
Right.
their
In the
beliefs.
end, all they're doing is calculating the Earth's sphericity by any means necessary. They can't actually measure it. They can't measure anything, because as soon as they measure anything real, it immediately points at how it isn't a sphere.
Okay, looks like we've got a bit of correction depiction on screen. Who's this? Is this you, Brian?
Yeah, when you're ready, I just wanted to point out what Zanuck was going on about the other day. Well, he was trying to slip in underneath the radar. But when you're ready, when you're finished.
Yeah, no. Go ahead now. I've got it screen shared. Go ahead.
Okay.
You got space plumb bobs?
Hey, come on now. I can only do so much.
No rumpusing.
Space plumb bobs?
No rumpusing.
Yeah, now this will be fast. You see this red line, right? That will be the observer's eye line, right? This, where the orange line is meeting the purple line, that'll be the vertex of the angle that the observer would, after doing dip and height of light correction, be bringing down to their feet or the water underneath their boat, let's just say. So I'm keeping this simple, right? This is what the bowlers are at. This red line is the observer's eye line. What they're doing is they're taking a line from the observer, right, to a star, right, and they're not making another line. I'm just going to show. Sorry. Should be still sharing this. They're not making another line, right, to what they should be doing is the second line should be going down, let's say, down to the horizon here, right? They're not doing that, right? So this other orange line is not happening. I changed the color just so you can see it better. I changed it to black. So this other black line here, right, that should then get corrected down and become the baseline, right, of the vertex, right, corrected with dip and height of y. They're not doing that. They're just taking one line to the star and then off of their zenith, right, off of the observer zenith, and then trying to calculate from that zenith to the star, right, basically using the star zenith, trying to use co-altitude, right, a distance. So let's just say their angle here is whatever, 60 degrees off the horizon. That means there's a 30 by 60 degree distance between here and the star, right? And this way they're trying to completely avoid, right, this line being brought down to the surface underneath the boat.
Correct.
Completely avoid it.
Yeah, correct.
That's what they're doing.
You mentioned this on the part I trimmed out on one of the videos over the weekend. So when they do that, they've got to avoid discussing the GP because they're taking the angle in the sky, and there's nothing wrong with that. But obviously, you've got to then translate that back onto the ground to give you the GP.
Well, the thing about it is that all they can do is what they have to do is get a co-altitude. They're not, well, technically on their model, they're not getting a co-altitude because their zeniths are going to be divergent. So what they're doing is they're getting a distance between the observer zenith and the star, and they're just trying to call that then. They're just trying to then call that like.
No, stop. No. What they're doing is they're saying, "Here you go. I measured the angle in the sky. Nothing to do with the ground. We all done? Everyone clear? Nothing to do with the ground. Everyone set." Right, now let's move forward and use it on the ground. Ignoring the fact that we needed a flat plane to get it. Because we did it in the sky, didn't we?
That's correct.
They're ignoring the fact that it's what Brian's doing there, and this is why it all works lovely for us. That bringing that line down has a purpose later on. It's the return journey. It's the return straight line distance calculated in nautical minutes, navigator's minutes, yeah? That's commensurate with the co-angle you calculate after you've measured your actual altitude. But it's that line on the way back, and they want to ignore it because they want to place their points from the center of the Earth and ignore that straight line and its importance. But it's important to bring it down so you know where it is on the way back.
Well, yeah, I see on their model, I'm just going to show just very quickly, it's going to be 2 lines, right? On their model, their zeniths, there's one line, right? And here's another one, right? Their zeniths have to diverge, right? So they're counting the distance across the sky, let's just say, but then when they bring it down, it'll never match. Like, it has to be a minute of degree for a nautical mile. There's no nautical mile without the minutes of degree. So 5 minutes of degree is 5 nautical miles. But on what they're doing is their zeniths, they're just measuring between their zenith, right, which would be off at an angle because it's diverging, and the star's zenith. But when they bring it down, it means nothing because it'll be way longer than the distance between the observer and what would be the GP of the star on their globe. It doesn't work. But what they're trying to really do is, like, they think they're being smart, but they're not, and I'll tell you why. Because what they don't understand is they can do this thing here in the sky, right? And they can kind of pretend that you can bring this down. But what they're completely forgetting about is a thing called number one, the horizon mirror, right? That you're going to need to use. And then number 2, you have the dip correction, and number 3, height of eye correction. So they have to pretend that those 3 things don't exist. Someone's feeding back there. I'm feeding back on someone. They have to pretend that those 3 things don't exist.
Can you mute, please?
Yeah. They have to pretend that the horizon mirror on the sextant, the dip correction, and height of eye correction don't exist for mariners at sea using a sextant. That's what they have to do. And that's why they do this stupid nonsense thing here and measure across this way, completely ignoring the fact that their zeniths are divergent. And that means the minutes of degree that they get between here and here won't match the ground distance, because the two people, the observer and the GP of the star, will be closer together than the distance that the angle will give. It's nonsense, but that's what Zanuck was doing anyway.
I like it when you use the trapezoid on that, Brian. It explains it nicely with the celestial sphere.
Yeah, they're going to diverge. The problem is always going to be the same. They can't get a 90 degree to it. That's why it started off as a joke. Shh, don't mention 90 degree, and turned into a lie. You don't need 90 degree. Yeah, you do. And you don't have it. You need a flat plane for it. That's how you're going to measure it. That's how it's done. So what are they left with? Well, they've got to lie. That's all they can do now. Lie. So we're going to be declaring a lot of people liars in this argument because there's nothing else to do. Either declare it's taken from a flat plane as it absolutely is, or lie. Those are your two options.
Well, the thing about it is that you need a 90 degree at the observer and a 90 degree at the GP, right? So that means you have to have this at both. You have to have that at both. It's an elevation angle, so the baseline has to be horizontal. You know, that is the way it is. So you need a 90 degree at the observer and a 90 degree at the GP. You know, you can't use a 90 degree, right, at both. You can't use any 90 degree on a curve with a curved baseline. But you can't. How are you going to use a 90 degree at both and not have a square or rectangle? You can't. It's not possible. They can't. What they have to do is, what Zanuck would have to do is ignore the 90 degrees also. That's what he'd have to do, because you can't use 90 degrees if you have diverging zeniths, can you? How do you use a 90 degree? Can't. Anyway, that's that. Unless anyone has anything else to say about it, I'll take it off screen.
Any comment? Did you want to add something, Dicelo? Or Don Gio, go ahead.
Yeah, well, other than that, I brought Trollon in here. He is a glober, and he did some math with the globe Earth model, and he reverse engineered it. He made something. He has a program or something that he did, and if he wants to speak and share it with you,
okay. If he does,
there.
Let him make his claim. Describe what he's describing. Please don't rumpus him if he does choose to talk to us.
True.
Hey, hello, Nathan.
Hello, good to have you.
Hey. So basically the claim is, you know how the scientists, they can't prove their globe, right?
Well, it's not really a scientific question. It's not a scientific question.
Yeah, okay. All right. So the scientists, they can't prove their globe. I can actually prove they can't prove it. And the way I do this is by taking their physics, and surprisingly, their physics works on any shape. You can have physics, globe physics, working on a flat plane. You can also have it working on a square plane or a pyramid. It works on everything. It's really surprising, but
okay.
It does. It mathematically checks out.
When you say their physics, what do you mean exactly?
Hang on, pictures are coming. You can see in a minute.
Okay, but you said their physics.
So what I'm saying is, you know coordinate transformations. You know they can change any shape into any other shape, right? Physics supports coordinate transformations, and coordinate transformations don't break the physics. So that basically means you can change any shape into any shape without breaking the physics.
Oh, right.
You can take a scientist's physics, you can change the shape of the Earth, and the physics will still work.
I see. So this is presumably why you can have Euclidean GPS in a box and still claim it's spherical.
Yes, that's also part of it, yes.
Fascinating.
Except this is a universe, not a GPS, yeah.
A universe, as in all of the stars and
yeah, it's yes. It's a transformation of the universe. So it basically takes, space, the globe, and all the space around it, and it turns it into a flat map. So basically, you take the globe, you hammer it flat or you transform it flat, and while you do it, you contort the entire universe to not notice the missing curve. That's what you do with their model. And then it looks flat, and it acts like it's a globe. You have a flat Earth model.
It looks rectangular to me.
There's a problem. There's a problem though with all that.
Oh, here we
There's
go.
a problem
Go ahead.
with all that.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, the main problem is all measurements taken by surveying, including total stations, that have it as just a feature in it. That's just an automatic within total stations, and all cartographies, OS maps, which are the most accurate maps we have. They're all the measurements are in Cartesian XYZ. With maps, with paper maps, it's going to be X and Y. But with digital, it's going to be XYZ. But all surveying is measured in XYZ. So it all starts within XYZ. GPS also uses XYZ. Now, mathematically, they use XYZ on the surface, on tangent planes of a pre-assumed globe. But it all coordination, all aerospace users, surveying, militaries, it's all XYZ. Even flight simulation software uses XYZ. All gaming use XYZ. XYZ is horizontals and verticals. There is no globe involved. After that, yes, you can convert to spherical. You can convert to latitude and longitude as the flattening of the WGS84, and then you can further convert to oblate spheroid WGS84. But it has to start flat. All of this starts XYZ flat.
Right?
Okay.
It's all flat, but you have to take, if you want anything else to then just be flat, you have to take shape-based considerations, whatever that may be.
I think the guy's point that he's trying to make, though, is that once they've translated it from the flat plane, which is Brian's point, that translation could go any way you like using what they call their physics. Well, their physics facilitates a transformation from a flat plane into any shape you like, is what I think the point the guy's making.
Correct.
Yes,
That's what
or
I
you
heard.
can take their or you can take their globe and make it flat and say, "Hey, thank you for proving our point."
Right, it works
All
both
works.
ways.
Yeah, you can only mold the Earth in any shape you like because it's so perfectly flat. If it wasn't, then all those modeling attempts to turn it into something else wouldn't work so well. Huh?
Yeah, I'd go with that.
Well, if you
You've got angle relationship measurements being taken, right? You've got a good, accurate... We started the show by talking about how well documented the movements of the celestial bodies are. And you've got accurate ways of measuring them if you've got a flat plane. So then you can take all that data, translate it onto a flat map, and have it work as it works. Well, then you can take that data and mould it and meld it into whatever shape you like. But you've got to start by having good, accurate ways of measuring the relationships between you, your position, and the position of the star over the surface. What does that require? A flat plane.
The relationship, there's nothing new under the sun. I'm showing you here what the old map creators knew, because this is a relationship between what Brian, a specific Cartesian grid system, which is the longitude-latitude system, which is not as variance in how it works. But then you're matching that up with the stars. Now, if you're using those things, you can plot them how you like, even to the point of the Jester, the love heart map, or as is eloquently shown there on those different models, or even on a pyramid. It doesn't matter the surface, because you just, I think, as the gent was saying, you're just transposing existing coordinates. Just like all you're doing is changing the shape of the reference system, but all you're doing is literally just placing the same known things on whatever shape you want, whether it's a ball or a Joker's face.
Can I bring up something?
Hey, hold on. Hey, Nathan, I put all of TrueLoon's gifts in Master B for you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll bring those up and we'll flick through them as the conversation progresses. Thank you for doing that.
That's what I was sharing there, Nate.
Oh, is that what you were sharing?
Yeah. It's gifts.
But
I almost hate to
wanted to say,
break the
though,
subject. Okay, you just go.
I just wanted to say real quick that mathematics is a descriptive language. Physics is not language. So I don't know how this is proof of anything.
It doesn't prove a shape.
That was his point, wasn't it? Kind of shows it doesn't.
That's what I thought.
Transposition onto anything.
I'm not sure if you can see the images, but if you do, it's physics working on a flat plane. It's globe physics working on a flat plane. It's everything the scientists have been saying on a flat plane. You can just show it works. It shows what day and night and the seasons working on a flat plane according to globe physics. And physics supports math. It is math.
I don't think you know what physics is.
Yeah, I tried to cover that.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, it's me. I'm saying when we started this conversation, regardless of which way the demo's going to go, and they're great, I love these. These are awesome. Yes, the audience can see them as we're speaking. No, it's not a question of science, but we kind of brushed past that in the initial stages, and I was like, well, what do you mean by physics? When you say physics, what are you talking about? It never really got addressed, but you know, these are interesting models.
It's cartography.
This one, the rectangular one, looks exactly like the map, like the 3D rendering. I'm still talking. The 3D rendering that Free Energy, now known as Square Earth Cosmology, made like 5 years ago, and on a better quality. But this pattern here showing right now is exactly what he was showing in his animations. That pattern of the sunlight. So yeah. This is the data. This is what it is.
No, it's not what it is.
Yeah, it is.
It's the data transposed onto a reification.
Oh, you beat me to it.
That's the same data, Arwin. Is it now a pyramid? Same data.
Good one, Adam.
It's projected into a pyramid. Except that the other one is, I don't think that's a projection,
It's
really.
projected into a rectangular looping model. This one's projected into a no-topped dish. Yeah, this one, we got the dome.
Right.
And it's just showing you how the different coordinate systems can be laid on any shape you want, and it'll look reasonable, even to the point of a bloody Illuminati pyramid. Look, the grid system still works as long as you lay it out right, yeah? And that's what I was showing with that picture.
Yeah.
The grid system still works.
Yeah, the rectangular one is the only one that actually seems halfway stable.
But none of it validates any of the physicality.
It was done 5 years ago already.
Okay.
By somebody.
Okay, enough. Brilliant. Thank you for presenting these. Hold on. Hello, can we just thank the guy? What was your name? Thank you very much.
It's true, Roland. Thank you. You're welcome. So,
Roland, brilliant.
Cool stuff.
Yeah, cool
Really
stuff.
cool.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, it. All right. Yeah, that's it.
What do you?
Is he a baller?
No,
physics works.
he's not
The
a
maths
baller.
works.
Guys,
Hello.
Hello. He's clearly got a little bit more to add. Just let him. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Roland,
all
go
I
ahead.
wanted to say is that it's really funny. The globe model, it also works on all possible shapes. No one has realized until now, I think, but this can be proven that it's really the same set of physics. You can show this in principle if you can get them convinced to any scientist, and they should acknowledge, yes, this is our model.
Very good. Go ahead, whoever it was that wanted to add that. Thank you for presenting it to us again.
Okay.
All right.
Absolutely.
I wanted to kind of change the subject or give you a heads up. There's a new space movie coming. I linked it up in the Master B right before all this stuff came in. It looks pretty interesting. It's like a bit of a crossover between Armageddon and Don't Look Up, and pulled even further. So, yeah, looks really interesting, guys. Definitely.
Be afraid. Be afraid.
Yeah, man, the moon's out of orbit. Ah!
I got the plain truth immediately. Oh, here we
Anyway,
go. Watch the
anyway,
trailer.
on topic.
I don't know. This is on topic.
What Truland basically elucidated is that you can't reverse engineer the shape of the ground from your idea of what lights in the sky are doing.
No, but if you've got a well plotted out map of the sky or documentation of the patterns that they perform again and again and again, well, then you can translate that information, which you've taken from a flat plane, onto any shape you like. Now, once you've got any shape you like, you're saying you can't take that any shape you like and infer the ground below. Well, once you know how they've acquired that any shape you like bit, you know that they needed a flat plane to do that. And then you can say, no, actually, you'd need a flat plane for that.
Yes, that's why they always argue from the sky backwards. They never argue from the ground upwards.
Okay, so this is called Moonfall.
That's right.
So presumably clues in the title in terms of the plot.
Nah, it gets really freaky and weird, though. If you watch the trailer, you already get a hint that this is like a movie that kind of gets out of control in many different ways. So it's not as focused as Don't Look Up was, but it does have elements of it. It's definitely like evolved on top of that.
It's just propaganda, though, isn't it? I mean, you can
Yeah.
admire the eloquent nature of Kubrick's work and then talk about 2001. It's still just a propaganda piece at the end of the day.
It got trans.
This one is more action
movie.
movie orientated, so it's more of an action adventure thing, like Armageddon a bit.
Wicked.
But
so, yeah,
it looks interesting.
A definite hi-fi workout. Good, good, good.
Put the regular population in fear.
Yeah, this movie goes a bit beyond that, though. It's quite over the top, but it looks really
So, do we
cool.
get back
like
to
a
the
real
subject,
space
please?
adventure.
What was the subject
Can we
again?
get back
Kiwi?
to the subject, please, about his claim that his physics works on a globe by
God.
chance?
You can, but last time
I think
you
it's
did
a
this,
semantics
oh,
issue.
hold on. Last time QE did this, I was really intrigued by what flat Earth data had come up with, because he was showing where the mathematics of 7/6R and sphere Earth horizons had come from 200 odd years ago in documented form. And your criticism was, that's not refraction, which is absolutely true. Perfectly legit criticism. But in this case, it's misapprehensions about physics or what you want to focus on. Fair enough. Off you go. You be my guest. Yeah.
I'd already said it's
Okay.
not physics.
Oh, go ahead. Adam must be true, Loon. Go ahead.
Cartography, not physics.
And
That's what he
Adam's
said.
name is Arwin.
Can I hear from QE?
And
we are all
Arwin's
one.
name is Neil. Right, let's stop. Everybody stop. Let's just start with Adam, then QE, who's actually the person supposed to be talking right now. Not me, not Adam. But Adam, go ahead.
Oh, look, QE already said that in the middle of the chat, and at that point, that's when I said, yeah, right, this is cartography. Hence why I pulled up the old man. I'm not sure what physics has got to do with any of it. Unless you talk about the way the physics works in the computer, the physics engine of the PC, but
that's not what he meant.
No, to me, this is not. It's cartography in 2D or 3D.
Right. It's all about projections. That's what cartography really is all about. Take the data, then relay it into projection models.
I just think that's a language issue. I could be wrong. I don't think he meant physics as in the study of the physical world with science. He just meant mapping, and we're calling that cartography. The physics of the world and how it's mapped. Well, that's not physics.
Arwin tried to reify it when he saw the one he liked.
Let's not jab too hard.
I thought the point of the presentation was for him to say, look, you can stick it on whatever you want. This doesn't make anything real. I think that's what his point was. Unless I've misunderstood.
No, I think
his
you've
point was
misunderstood, but I don't think that alters QE's thirst for blood. The guy talked about physics, so fuck him. He can get an earful.
My entire point is that the rectangular map seems the most logical and Cartesian in nature. Every time I see any pattern used
Nobody asked.
within it.
Nobody asked.
Yeah, I did, though.
the guy's statement was the opposite of flat Earth math statement. He was saying after you figure out it's a flat plane, then you can assert it's any shape you want. That's what he said.
Right. I think it's a good point.
That's what?
It is.
The thing
You
I
can
like
make
about
any
your
shape, you can make any
from a
shape
flat
of the
plane.
Earth you want, as long as you realize it starts out with flat plane data.
Correct.
So what shape does a flat plane make? Tell me.
It's an aspect. It's not a shape.
Exactly. So what is the point of this?
It's
I don't know.
created with the Earth you're standing on, thanks to the Earth being flat.
Yeah, it's just an opportunity. The point of this, John, to answer your question, is it's an opportunity to labour this point again and again and again, because I think it's an excellent point.
Well, flat Earth math did the opposite. He said, first we'll figure out the shape, and then we'll do the measurements, right? But this guy's doing the opposite tact of saying, we'll do some measurements, then we'll figure out the shape. But if all you have is a flat plane, you don't have a shape to presuppose.
He's pointing out we've already got all of the measurements, but we still don't know what shape it is.
Except
my
that it's
goodness,
flat.
guys. That's because the title of this video says azimuthal transformation. Okay, the azimuth is reverse engineered from the lights in the sky. That's his whole point.
Yeah. And I think that came across. But God damn it, he said physics.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying.
By
too.
physics,
I'm
he
with
just
you,
means
Huey.
how the lights in the sky move. That's all he was meaning.
Look, right, it may have taken him several hours to make those models, but we will now crucify him for using this terminology wrong.
Guys, remember,
The 5th of
we've had
November.
plenty of guys come in here claiming to be astrophysicists, right? And they also came into other shows, and they explain how they reverse engineer quote unquote physics just from watching lights on their screen. Like, we see this light goes left, and then this light goes right. Therefore, this is a planet, and that's got gravity of 5.2, and this has got a mass of 10,000. Right? They're just reverse engineering it from their interpretation of lights on a screen.
It's a
Sounds
funny
like
old world,
science
isn't
to me.
Go on,
In
Kiwi.
other words, a lot of nonsense.
Go on, Kiwi.
Well, there was about 10 things wrong in his first two sentences. I was shocked. I said, boy, this is going to be a slam dunk. Then we went right into movies.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Are we in Bizarro world? No, I'm not talking about you. Everyone started chasing the movie thing and talking about, I don't know what you got. What the hell? What the hell are you people on?
Oh, that was Arwen.
Didn't you listen to the words that came out of his mouth?
I didn't. I hate that subject.
I was
Fucking
waiting
brown
for you
nose.
to
Physics of his
speak.
cartoon.
Bloody Irish brown nose.
Brown nose.
I know
was
you guys
patiently
heard
waiting for you.
Yeah. I know you guys heard every single word that come out of his mouth, and it was absolute gibberish. Where, Churloon? What the hell is physics? Where is he? Did he leave?
Come back so
Yes,
we can
he did.
berate you. Put him on mute so we can take him off and berate him.
He left.
I have something
He
to
left,
present
man.
there.
That was a hit and run.
Okay, right. So it doesn't get lost. Please, Kiwi, tell us what was gibberish. Because I don't know. I honestly don't know what you're talking about.
What was gibberish? He said that he had science, or he had physics that proved his globe. I thought I heard that. Maybe I did. Maybe it's just what I wanted to hear.
No.
And then he
No,
said,
that's
"Yeah, I
that's
got."
not what he said.
No,
It's
let's
not
just,
what he said.
everyone
introduced
stop.
as a
Just
globe.
stop. Everyone just stop. It's just me and QE. I'm just going to detail. Initially, yes, that's what I picked up on. This guy's about to launch into proving his globe by the way he phrased it. Very quickly, I realised, no, this guy is not a glober. Absolutely not. And his...
Hello?
Say again?
He's back.
Yes, hi.
Yeah.
We're just pulling apart
Let him know
something.
that you guys are calling him to
True,
clarify.
Loon.
So he can back.
Correct me if I'm wrong. When you said physics and science, what you mean is what the people who peddled the globe call science and physics. Is that what you meant by that?
Yes.
There you
the
go,
globe
QE.
set of rules and formulas.
Maths and topography. Yeah, not science, but that's what they would call it and label it. So you've done the same. Incorrectly, that's just what we were discussing. It's not a big deal. Don't worry. Unless QE makes it a big deal now, which is nothing to do with me.
You think it's a sphere?
I think that's aimed at you, True Loon. Do you think Earth's a
Oh,
sphere?
yes. Personally, I still give them the benefit of the doubt, yes. Now, to be very clear, I think both are possible, and it's impossible to prove which one is correct. There's no way to know what the planet looks like.
Oh my God, that's 2
It's
for
not
2
a
I've got
planet,
wrong
that's the
now.
first thing.
That's the second time I've got it wrong. Right, QE, I
See,
owe you
I
an
was right.
apology.
I'm trying to tell
Who
you.
else do I owe an apology? I'll just eat humble pie right now. I called that completely wrong. Second time in a row.
Start with me.
Not me. And Arwen said,
Sorry,
no, he's not
John.
a globe.
Sorry, John and John.
Yeah. Are you going to launch into something here with this man now? Or will
I don't
talk
know.
about what I have
He's
on
done
the
nothing
screen?
but benefit our cause in this regard. So feel free if you want to.
Yeah, I just want to point something
Hold
out.
on. Sorry, I had to step out. I missed all that, so that add some more confusion to the damn. I had to step out. My cat knocked over the print. It was bad.
Okay.
So
he's not a glober, but he actually is because he gives the globe the benefit of the doubt and feels that you can't prove it either way.
Wasn't a
Is that what it
planet.
is?
Come on.
He's just globe tolerant.
I was wondering because you did use.
Curious.
Thanks for that. Any other comments you'd like to add? Anyone else just like 3 or 4 words to interrupt every fucking thing? Yeah, I didn't think so. Fuck. Okay, Truluun, you said that you had physics to prove a globe. Did I mishear that?
No, that's correct.
So, that's correct. So, can you define physics for us?
I mean the set of rules and formulas the people use.
No.
That's what it's for me.
Nope. Physics is not formulas. Physics is not mathematics whatsoever. Wrong. You don't know what physics is.
Enlighten me then.
Enlighten you. I'm not enlightening you. I'm sorry. That's for somebody else. They can chase their tail with this.
It's
You just
physical.
exposed
It deals with
yourself
the physical.
as a pretender clown.
Physics is the physical as opposed to abstractions and numbers. That's maths. So physics deals with the physical.
Oh, okay.
The physical and natural.
Yeah, I usually call that reality.
Yeah, physics deals with reality. Maths deals with the abstract.
Okay. Then replace every time I use the word physics with maths. I'm sorry.
That's cool. That leaves us without any issue with you, unless you started making claims about your fundy belief that the benefit of the doubt is required. But up until now, you've not done that, so there's no issue. I took it to mean that even though I called it wrong that you're a fundy.
I didn't.
Nobody's perfect.
No, but he's the
Well,
most.
let's be clear, though. The mainstream globers do claim to derive physics from maths. And he's saying, even though he used the wrong words, that their claim can just be used to prove any shape. whichever one you prefer.
Right, because it's a geometric claim.
We
I see.
prefer reality.
Well, no, that leads us to another question then. Would you infer, based on that statement and those models, that while you don't appreciate what, quote, shape it might be, that the single, quote, shape, actually an aspect, could only be flat to get these measurements in the first place? Is that something that you appreciate, or are you new to the show?
For me personally, I think that's hard. So while it is true you can get the mods to work on a flat Earth this way, the mods will be very difficult, and it will be more difficult than it being a globe. So practically the physicists, they're going to continue using the mods or the globe model. However, philosophically, it's impossible to ever show the shape of the Earth. It could be flat, it could be a velociraptor, it could be a globe. It doesn't matter. We will never know.
That's totally wrong. We do know. All of surveying measured the Earth to be flat. Celestial navigation shows that the Earth has to be flat. And the number one of all time, as far as I'm concerned, air travel shows the Earth cannot be anything but a horizontal plane with topography all on.
But that's not a shape, though.
Hang on.
That's an aspect.
That's correct, Darwin. But go on, Brian.
I get that, Erwin. I know that. Right? So that is completely wrong. What you're talking about, the reason they can mess around so much is because they start with a globe, which is a mathematical model. It's mathematical. The globe itself and the radius of the globe comes from a flat Earth. It comes from elevation angles to Polaris. That's where it all comes from. It's a mathematical model to start with. So what they do is you can turn that mathematical model into any other mathematical model, because it's all nonsense. None of it is real. None of it is used in reality. In reality, if you want to do anything, you have to deal with reality, which means that you're dealing with a world that has a horizontal baseline. That is
That's
fact.
correct.
So yes, it is without a doubt proven flat.
Hey, let's just hear his response. Hold on a second. Go ahead.
Well, I don't want to make any claims about that. All I've done is I've taken the globe math and I've worked with that, and now you get a result in globe math. That's all I've done. You take the globe math and you can show with the globe math you can make a flat world. That's all I'm doing. I'm not going to make any claims. In fact, I believe it's possible to look at the world in both ways, and the mods will work in both ways. You are free to choose. If you look around you, you can say the world is flat and light curves, or you can say, oh yes, it's a globe and the Earth curves.
That's
it's really the same
Take
for
a
me.
stand.
Can I just ask you a question, please? I'm just reading the paper you've put up. It's interesting.
Kurt?
Seeing what you're doing. So you're actually transforming the azimuthal coordinate system away from a observer sphere, as we'd see it, onto a cosmic cylinder. Is that how you then place those coordinates? I'd have issue with that. I think.
Eli.
Yeah.
Hold on. Can everyone be quiet except Adam and the guy who's made these models? Thank you.
Could you just? I've only read like your brief. You just explain the rationale, why you've turned those individual celestial sphere readings and projected them onto the surface like that. I can see why you do it on a ball, because it's the inside of a celestial sphere. But is that the assumption you have to make to try and do something with the data? Did you try any other ways? Was the other question I was going to ask.
No, I just started from the only model I know, and that's the globe one. So I started from that, and I just went from there. So yeah, you can. If you have a flat Earth model, You can do exactly the same, the reverse way you can end up with a globe. It's also possible. You can turn any shape into any shape, basically.
But before you've wrapped it, like when you wrapped it on the pyramid, what have you done with your azimuthal coordinates there?
Oh, that's one. Yeah, that one is totally different. What I've done there is basically, again, I've started working with spheres around the center of the Earth, all spheres around it, and then I bang in the sides of the spheres until it looks like a pyramid. So that's not using the azimuthal coordinates or the latitude longitude ones. I just really wanted to have it. I think it looks really nice. I call it the Illuminati Earth.
I just want one final point. I'm just looking at the way it's. See, to me, a celestial sphere is an individual thing that's generated by the observer. So the point of all of this is we're translating. Like I say, it's fine to apply it to the inside of a ball on the inside of a celestial sphere. That's the easy way. But if I look at what you're doing, it seems to be mislocating the points as well, which will then mislocate the ground.
Yes, no, I think I know what you understand. So yes, indeed, the first step is I express every coordinate in celestial coordinates, so latitude, longitude, and a distance. And the first thing to notice is that all points on Earth get a coordinate like latitude, longitude, and then 6,000 kilometers.
Right, got you.
Which means the 6,000 is constant, latitude, longitude is only 2 dimensions, so you basically only have a 2-dimensional object. And then to draw it, I use the azimuthal...
Hold on, stop a second.
The azimuthal equations.
Stop a second. Stop. You're saying you draw it out in 2 dimensions and then you can take that flat and fold it onto whatever shape you like. Is that what I'm understanding?
No. In terms of the placement of the stars, he has to put them somewhere. Because this is the celestial sphere is infinite, because we're just dealing with angles, no distances. But in this way, when you transpose the coordinates, as far as I can see, the transposition requires a distance for that star to be able to put it in the azimuthal cylinder system. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So in a way, to transfer it, you have to make an assumption, which is to make the map of the heavens across a flat surface. Is that what you did at 6,000 miles away?
So again, like I said in the beginning, I started from the globe maths, and I just went to look where I could get, and yeah, I ended up where I ended up, showing that it can also produce flat images.
I'm still confused. Hold on. If you're saying you took the globe maths, well, what distance have you got the stars? Have you got them projected out at an infinite distance?
The thing that it says on Wikipedia, basically, that's the thing I've been using. But again, if you have other distances, put them in like you want. I've just been using the globe model. So the sun in this is 120 million kilometers away. Like I said, I've just taken what the physicists use and gone with that. And then you can say, hey, look, physicists, you just made a flat Earth for us. Thank you. I'm not saying you have to accept this. I'm just saying if you start from this physics, from this set of rules, of this set of math, this is where you end up. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. I'm just trying to clarify them. I've got it on screen for Nathan, your Traloon.com up. So what we've got here is the individual way of determining it, and it's placed. The readings are plotted on your celestial sphere. What he's doing is taking that and transposing the coordinate system into this cylinder instead of a sphere. So we've got a flat plane instead of a globe Earth at the center of this one. So we've transposed it to a flat plane. But in doing so, we can't have everything on the outside because we need stuff in the middle of the cylinder. See, all this is covers because it's your sphere of vision. This has now become a physical entity to put things on, but we can't just put it on the edges and the outsides. We've got to put stuff in the middle for the star map to work. So what you have to do is what Tarun was saying was you have to assign a distance for them. So in doing so, you see, this is no longer. You see why it doesn't work for reality, because
No, keep
now
going.
you've taken
Keep going.
full
Keep explaining.
data.
No, because I don't understand how it doesn't. Just you were. I was following along. Keep going.
Okay. So we've now placed the stars, all of them, at 6,000 kilometers above the Earth for this data to be able to be transposable onto this system. That's because, and this is an imaginary number. We've made it up.
Hold on. I'm still sorry if I'm being mathematically illiterate.
No?
Would it not be a cone shape coming off the bottom of this disc at the bottom then, if it was all at the same distance? If they were all at 6,000, then you can't have them projected.
Wait. Only the surface of the Earth ends up at 6,000. Everything else ends up at its respective distance. So you transform the entire space, 3D space, into an infinitely high cylinder. That's what's happening. And so the height in the cylinder corresponds to the distance something is away from you.
That's what I asked originally.
So if the stars are...
Hold on, that's what I asked originally. So they're at an infinite distance then?
If the stars are infinitely far away, yes. Yes, then.
No, not the six. Sorry, no.
Oh.
I'm not suggesting that's what the stars are.
They have no distance.
I'm asking what... Who's rumpusing me? No, I'm not suggesting that's what the stars are. I'm just saying that's how it's being projected. They must be in this description and this projection at an infinite distance. That was originally what I asked.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Have you generated a full planisphere, star planisphere of both hemispheres, from an astronomy point of view, put them over a flat plane that you've raised up 6,000 miles, which is to the center of the Earth, which is where your flat plane center of your ball, which is the position it is sitting at. But then the stars are still out at infinity. There is no real distance to them.
No, what you need to do for the transformation is you draw a sphere through the star. So you take the center of the Earth and you draw a gigantic sphere through the star. So it's going to be humongous. And then you take that sphere and you do the azimuthal equidistant projection. If you do that, your entire sphere will be transformed into a disk. And that's what's put into the cylinder. And azimuthal projection, typically the size goes from, minus pi to pi. I mean, the width is 2 pi. So it's constant regardless the size of your cylinder.
It's like...
stars do get compressed if they're higher up. That's correct, yes.
So like the maps they use, when you've got a what do they call it, a planisphere? Or what do they call it when they have it dropped over the top?
Yeah, like a record now. So we've got AJC managed to combine the two many years ago with a couple of star issues. But that's the first point. That doesn't work like...
May I interject something?
Yeah.
Before you do, one word.
Adam's
I
getting
just wanted
somewhere.
to summarize
Right,
it all.
Adam's led this conversation for 90% of the actual concise mathematical dissection. Let Adam lead the conversation, please. Go ahead, Adam.
All of these systems in the way when we're looking at sextants and we navigate this Cartesian coordinate system, this sphere of our vision, the way we take this, there is no ball underneath. This is just that sphere of vision. It's in the ball. Remember, the angle change is distance away from you, not rotation of the ball. This is how all of these measurements that we've got that are plotted onto a ball or wherever are obtained off of a flat plane. Now, like I said, it's easy to translocate them onto the inside of a tiny little ball centered in the middle of an infinite celestial sphere. It's easy to put them there, but that's not how they're acquired. It's easy for your mind to think like that. What's happened here is we've got this switch like this, and we've just heard the confusion. And the confusion is we're trying to locate individual measurements and make all of those just fit the translocation onto a map. It can't be done because that's not how these measurements work. They work for us to navigate. They don't work for us to plot, take that plotting and give you a map of the stars to then just move everything down. It only works for the individual. So you've got to cross the two systems unless you go here, which is just to plot it at the center of your celestial sphere. That's right. That's so easy. Right, I've done rambling.
It's a celestial sphere-based projection, and that's what he was doing. Celestial sphere, the apparent sphere, not actual, and then assuming that it is a sphere, and then, maneuvering its mathematics, the way it's arranged, the projection of it.
That's how it's been,
Okay.
but that's how it's been logged.
Right, can I
But
just
hold
say
on.
something real quick?
Well, you can, but
because I think Nathan heard it earlier. When he used the coordinates, the longitude and latitude, he used the word 2D coordinates, which makes it a flat plane. I think Nathan heard that earlier too.
Well, that's where we're getting to. That's the conclusion that's about to come. So in terms of your celestial sphere and these angles coming in to your position, the depiction on the left for those watching in the audience that Adam's just detailed, that's the origin. So the misapprehension comes when the guy says, no, I'm starting with a sphere. No, you're not. You're starting with the celestial sphere. That's what's depicted here. And the flat circular disc in the middle is the flat plane that's going to be required to make any angle measurements, to log any of this stuff, to detail any of this stuff, to move forward in any way, shape or form. You need that flat plane in the middle. That's the point.
Thank you, Brian.
Go ahead, Ted.
Number one, why is it taking so long? When he said center of Earth, he needs to prove R. There is no R. So it's over right there. Number two, this was my presentation last week. They're using the equatorial plane because it's flat. And that matches the equatorial celestial horizon at the equator from the celestial presupposed sphere of theirs. So the whole point is they have to use flat to get everything to work. They can't have flat on the surface of a pre-assumed globe. So that's why they always go to the center and say, we're going to use the equatorial plane. We'll do it from there because we can get 90 from there. We can't get it from the surface, so we'll get it from there. Okay, so are they getting it from there? No, no one's going to the center of a presupposed Earth to get anything. So it's the surface. Now, how does the sextant work? Right angles, 90 degree, co-altitude. Can that work on any of what this gentleman said when he said it can work on both models? It can only work on one, a flat. It even works on one, on theirs, a flat equatorial plane, which never actually takes place because it's happening on the surface, which then they take down to the presupposed center of the Earth and say, here's the flat plane that the flat Earth has, but we need to put it here for it to work. This thing is stupid.
Great, good summary.
Well,
yeah. Did anyone want to add anything before we go into Brian? Because Brian's got a bit of a...
Before we do, because I don't want people to be attacking this guy.
No, I don't either. Okay, Adam then Eli. Adam, go ahead.
He's come in and if you read his paper, it says it, and he's said it a couple of times, from this stuff, there's no proof for anyone. And I think that should, before people are having a go at him, he's not come in. He happens to be a baller, fair enough, but he's not come in saying this proves anything. He's saying quite the opposite. It doesn't help any perspective.
Yeah, in terms of baller
so why go
interactions, just before we let Eli go next, this guy's the most, and I'll say it, head and shoulders above any single individual who has come here ever, bar none. So very nice guy, perfectly entitled to his globe belief, and what he's presented and the way he's phrased what he's presented, no issue with any of it. We dealt with a minor issue. QE was right on it. Like, it flies on shit. Good. That's how it should be. Because otherwise I'd have just left it as, no, it's just a flat earther. He just used the wrong words. Not so. Good. It was all addressed. It's all identified. Very nice chap. Thank you. Done a lot of work. He's presented to us very kindly. Got nothing but admiration for the guy. Meanwhile, Eli's got something to say. Go ahead.
Yes. You're a very cool guy. You might... I'll just go ahead and say you have a good demeanor about you, and I appreciate that. And so, moving on, I wanted to say about 15 minutes ago, when Brian made the initial point about making angles, which require 90. Well, there's a 90, and you have the co-altitudes and all of this. When he was detailing that, he was detailing how you can't have a curved adjacent, which would be the curving Earth. So I didn't hear you address him directly, and there was a point that was made before that that you answered but didn't address directly then as well. So I'm just wondering what you have to say in light of the information that we've been sharing back and forth.
Did you want to
Because
address it to
models
him?
are all good and
have to
well,
address it
but
to
we're
him.
talking about the angle measurement.
Sure, you'll have to actually address him. True. If you don't, I will. But if you want to concisely address him.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
what's your name?
For me, I'd rather not get into that. That's not the claim I'm making.
You don't want to get into
But
how
that
you'd have a
doesn't
curved
really address
adjacent
me.
to get an elevation angle. That's a shock.
Yeah, that doesn't really address anything either. I've noticed how you've been very careful with not making claims, and it also rubs me in the way that you're saying, well, the information is coming from the fact that we live on a sphere, but you can transpose it to any other shape that you like. But then Adam already addressed that as well. And I'm just wondering if you have any points on the back of any of these addressals to your initial statements.
What I said was, one, we assume the globe model. Then we start working with the globe model and we see where we arrive. For example, if you can arrive at a contradiction, if you can do that, you can say globe model is invalid. So I just assumed the globe model, started working with it, and I ended up that it can actually prove the flat Earth. Well, not prove it, show that it also works.
That's incorrect. You started
That's
with
my
a
only
flat
claim.
plane, and then you reified a globe model.
But let's check if
That's
you understand.
right.
Hold on, everyone. Let's just check if he understands that. Good point, John. So since then, we've gone through how unless you assume you're taking an angle measurement from the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, what you're actually doing is taking a measurement from a flat plane of your celestial sphere. That's been explained. Is that understood? We're not going to... No, I'll just leave it at that. Is that understood?
I'm using latitude and longitude, yes.
I'm going to say,
No,
sorry,
that's
do you want to go
no. That didn't answer the question.
This might help the situation, right? If you hypothetically stood underneath Polaris, right, at the GP of Polaris, right, GP is geographical position, which is directly underneath Polaris. So directly above Polaris's GP, that's the zenith, Polaris. And you move away from that position, your angle won't be, it'll be 90 at that point, but as you move away, it'll decrease from 90. Now, if you keep moving away till you get to the equator region, it'll go down to about 0, right? But the thing about it is that all that time that you've moved away, every angle you've taken is a right angle. And the base of that right angle is a horizontal plane, because the base of all right angles are horizontal. So every time you've moved away, for no matter what distance you move from Polaris, as long as you can see it and you can take an angle to it, then the baseline of that angle is always going to be horizontal. Now, Polaris will appear to drop in the sky the further you move away from it, until you get to around the equator or just a bit past the equator, and it'll kind of disappear then. But the problem with that is this: if you remove all perspective from that, and then you take your angle that you took on the surface of Earth, and you take that whole thing and put it into the center of a circle, and you then determine that for every angle from that, for every set distance you moved away from the geographical position of Polaris, that as an angle, right, that as an angle to the center of a circle, right, matches, let's say they figure out that 1 degree or 1 degree matches 69 statute miles or 60 nautical miles. Now, it wouldn't have been 60 nautical miles originally. because they wouldn't have been using Nordic because they didn't exist at the time. But the point is that the globe is back engineered off of flat Earth angles to Polaris. That's why you have an average radius of 3959 miles. So the globe has to start with flat Earth elevation angles. You just remove perspective and then move all your elevation angles to the center of a circle, and you work out how much distance from the ground position, the GP, the geographical position of Polaris, you've gone, and what angle that would be to the center of a circle. And that's where the radius, that's where the radius comes from, the Joule radius, and that's where the circumference, that's where the diameter of the globe Earth comes from. So the globe Earth is a mathematical reinvention that's based off of a flat plane. That's where it actually comes from. And that's why Eratosthenes and Al-Biruni after him had to revert to the mathematics of Pythagoras. And what mathematics were they reverting to? What is Pythagoras famous for? The right angle. So it's just a back engineering based off of a flat plane. And you're right. In a lot of ways, it's a philosophical model.
Just want to turn that into a question. So for Trulin, which is to say, originally, fair enough, you've taken the model that has taken effect as a result of these angle measurements on a flat plane and engineered that model, the sphere that you've used, into all sorts of other models. Fair enough. But do you appreciate that your original model, that would be a sphere, had to be derived from a flat plane in the first instance, now that it's been explained by Brian?
I do really not want to get involved in that. I'm sorry.
But that's the crux of your claim. Your claim was that it must start with a sphere. That's how you've started. And we're saying, no, your sphere that you started with had to have a flat plane origin. But you don't want to get into that because it means you'll become a flat earther after you understand it.
Yeah, wise move.
No, because it's against, like I said, I think I haven't discredited the globe, far from it. I just believe you can view the world. It's possible to view them in both ways. That's my position.
And that's correct. You can.
And all I've done in the beginning is I've said
that's
my
right.
claim
you said
was...
that 3 times. I understand your position. You can. And based on your modelling, you can take the globe position and remodel it to be flat. But to have either to be considered in any way, you had to start with flat, but you don't want to get into that. To have either reconsidered in either way, both started with a flat plane and then were derived afterwards. But you don't want to get it. I don't get it. Why don't you want to get into that? That's the crux of the argument.
Because I started from step 1. We assume globe physics. We start from there. And then we use latitude and longitude. And if you derive that from a flat plane, that's fine for me.
I get that. But no, you're incorrect. Because no, when you say you started with globe physics, no, you didn't. The origins go back further, and we've now enlightened you to how your, quote, globe physics actually started with a flat plane, but you don't want to get into it. You mean you don't want to concede that what you think is the start point, that's globe physics, is wrong. It's actually flat Earth starting point. You don't want to just concede that, because that's where we're at. It seems unreasonable that you wouldn't concede it when we've taken the time to explain your misapprehensions of the starting point. The starting point's flat, my friend. Why won't you just concede that? We've explained it in detail, taken our time with you. It seems unreasonable that you wouldn't just say, yes, I understand how the origins can only be flat. Why wouldn't you concede that? Are you an unreasonable man?
Because I'm not going to decide that here and now on the show. It's going to take time, and I'm going to read all the arguments, and I don't know what. That's not something that's going to happen here.
That's fair enough. I'd like to discredit the globe. I got 3 slides up, Nathan and Master B.
Okay. Fair enough. Just to wrap that up before we go to 10th, because Brian's been waiting in the wings for a while. And Arwin, okay, make your comment, but I just want to round out this point. Because you've been such a nice guy, and without seeming in any way weaselly, you've subverted it in such a reasonable way that I'm going to fold and say, fair enough. I was going to do it earlier, but you've now taken every bit that anybody else wanted to throw at you. kudos. You've been the nicest. Reiterate it. You've been one of the nicest globe-believing guests we have ever have, if not the most reasonable. So thank you very much.
Wrong again.
Agreed.
Wrong
No,
again.
I
You should
agreed,
not
and I
say
wanted to
throw.
make a very quick comment.
Go, Darwin will rumpus everybody.
Right, yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
So you call it globe physics, but I think that's a misassumption from your perspective. You
done that.
misunderstand what
Kiwi
you're
did
doing.
this.
It's
Kiwi's already
actually
done this.
celestial sphere physics.
Yeah,
That's what your vantage point. It's because of the celestial sphere, not the Earth sphere. Now,
Okay, we're labouring
that
the point
all
now.
comes secondary in what you're doing mathematically.
Okay, thank you. You're labouring the point. I'm glad you are, but on the other hand, I do want to end at some point, and Brian and 10th have both got presentations. Thank you, Arwin, though. You're labouring the point I would love to labour indefinitely, but by the same token, I do have a family. So, Brian.
Go ahead.
Okay, Nathan. I was presenting something there. I don't know if I'm still presenting it, am I?
You are, yeah. Starting with thrust and pitch data, 18 questions for Wolfie 6020.
Yeah, okay. I'll give a little bit of background on this. I'll try and keep it as fast as possible. This and just one other thing to show. This is question. I've been doing update videos on the fact that Wolfie has not provided the thrust and pitch data from 10 international flights, right, which would prove or disprove his claims that he flies around the globe. Now, Wolfie has said that he will offer it, but it'll cost money to get it and whatever, right? So I have 18 questions that I've sent to Wolfie, and suppose that he's answered them, but I haven't seen the answers. I haven't seen them yet, but according to him and some others he did, but I can't find out where he wrote them. But either way, I'm just going to read this out for you, these 18 questions, just because I want people to be aware of them, okay? So I'm going to start with, I'm reading it off the video here. So Wolfie 6020 is offered to acquire the above data. Specifically, he said he would acquire black box data. Wolfie said that this data would cost a lot of money. He says that he does not know how much money, just that it will cost a large sum of money. So it looks like we may get the requested data after all from Wolfie, but I have some questions beforehand, okay? So, questions for Wolfie. So, first question, why did you, Wolfie, not personally get this data yourself at some point over the last 6 years? As if the data proves a globe, then I am sure that all the globe people that we deal with, move on there, that we deal with, sorry, right, would have gladly helped you with the fee, right? That's the first question. Second question, what is the source of this information and data, right? Where is it coming from? Third question, is it possible to bypass you and communicate with the source directly to get the data? Fourth question, how do you know that this data will cost a lot of money, and why will it cost a lot of money? Fifth question, will this data be specific to my requests, or will it be mixed in with all the other data on the black box? Sixth question, if the data shows that the planes did not pitch down below horizontal in the manner that they would have to for the pilots to fly around the globe Earth with a 3,959 mile radius, will you admit that the pitch data does not support your claims? Okay, moving on. Seventh question. Seventh question. If the data shows that the pilots of the aircraft did not need to constantly pull back on the thrust so as to account for the necessary drop value that you would have to account for if they were to fly around the globe Earth with a 3,959 mile radius, will you, Wolfie, admit that the thrust data does not support your claims? Going on to the A question now. Okay. A question. If this data supports a globe Earth and proves your 6-year claims true, then why has nobody in your field of expertise presented this data to us in the past? Ninth question. Are you, Wolfie, okay with this data being independently verified by other pilots and aerospace institutions, and if not, why not? 10th question. If I need to do a GoFundMe to raise the funds for this data, are you willing to wait until I have the needed funds? Right? The 11th question. If I do proceed with a GoFundMe, I will obviously need to know how much money I will need to cover your costs. So I will need you to secure a price for these services prior to me setting up the fund. Right? Are you okay with this? 12th question. As I will obviously be using not just my own, but also other people's money to pay for this data, do you understand that I will need to know all the details concerning the source of this data before I purchase? 13th question. Are you aware that if this data supports a flat plane Earth and not a spherical globe Earth, that I am at liberty to bring this data further, even to the point of approaching some of the larger aerospace companies with it, and even bringing it into a courtroom? 14th question. Would you, Wolfie 6020, be willing to address a courtroom in support of your claims if I brought the data that far, which I may consider doing? 15. Are you okay with me citing you as the source of the data if I approach some of the more well-known aerospace companies, or would you prefer to not be involved? 16. Have you any professional advice to offer me as to what I should do with this data once I get it, as in advice on how to go about using it to my advantage or to my detriment? 17. Do you, Wolfie, feel that you could support your claims and win a court case against Flat Earth using the data that I requested? 18. Do you, Wolfie, feel that I could support my claims and win a court case against Globe Earth using the data that I requested? Okay? Okay. So
thank you,
what that
from
is
Brian.
What the fuck?
Right.
What?
So
what
This is a bit
the hell is going on? I just sat.
It's a bit
hold on
too
a second.
long a list.
I just sat down. You got 46 people in here, right? I'm sorry. Maybe I ought to calm down. Fuck Wolfie! Who gives a shit about Wolfie? What the fuck is this?
I personally like questions.
Hold on, Eli. Hold on.
Let me finish. So.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
They were good questions.
Wolfie is a commercial pilot, right? Who has spent 6 years making the same claim. Leave me finish. The same claims for 6 years. He has not supported these
over
claims.
some fucking moron.
Hang on.
Oh my God!
Leave me finish.
What, Nathan? Is your show his bitch?
If you don't leave me finish, you're not going to hear.
Is your show? Shut the fuck up! Is your show his bitch or something?
That's unnecessary.
Hold on. Fucking speak. Okay.
I know you're mad, Brian, but you don't have to reflect that kind of behavior. QE, that was
I don't know. Fuck that. I'm not going to have him tell me that. No. If he shut the fuck up, he'd hear us.
He doesn't want to hear it. That's the point. But
the trust and pitch
matter.
data.
It's not his show, so
the trust and pitch data that I'm looking for, he's obviously not going to provide. Right? I have to go through a heap of nonsense to get it. But I'm going in a different direction to get the trust and pitch data. Right? The trust and pitch data that might very well end up in a courtroom that would prove that airplanes are not flying around the bloody globe. I don't care about Wolfie. I'm just using Wolfie because he's the person making all these claims. He's been making them for 6 years. So I am getting in touch, and I am in touch with other pilots who have nothing to do with any of this, about getting the data and having them decipher it if needs be.
All right.
Because female companionship.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's just a very serious analysis.
Okay,
I think you're really onto something, Brian.
It was QE's objection. That was directed at QE. He was asking a question.
Do you want a response from me? Okay, listen. Maybe it's my fault. I left and came back. And then I'm sitting here listening to a monologue about some numpty dipshit. We were on TrueLoon, so it could be my problem. You might have transitioned to something, but we got 46 people in here that don't give a fuck about Wolfie. I can guarantee you that. So what is this? I don't know what it is. I'm sorry. Maybe it's me.
It's countering anti-flat earther.
I'd call it a stereotyping fallacy. You speak for all 46 people, QE. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, I bet you. Let's go down each one. One deck.
What?
Do you even know?
Hold on. To get away with not being
no,
accused of a stereotyping fallacy, he's literally going to defend that shit
Wait a
by asking
second.
every person on the panel. That's QE's response when he's called on a
All of
fallacy.
us.
After 18 questions, I'm not dealing with 46
This
answers.
is pure entertaining.
That's another fallacy, but seeing as that portion 2 didn't come out on Glowbusters, I don't know what it is yet. But yo, check it out.
Hey, Nathan.
I think this is all for the sake. It's not for Wolfie. It's for just call it publicity. Call it publicity. Because if
hold
that's
on.
it.
Okay,
But this is counterintelligence against a veteran anti-flat earther, which is what Wolfie is. He's a veteran anti-flat earther. He's very deep into it, and I think Brian has done a very meticulous job. So continue.
Exactly. Brian's asked his
Brian, don't
questions.
take shit from
everyone
nobody.
else, hold on. Brian's put his questions. That will get aired when this gets aired. The members will hear it, and then 2 or 3 days. So Wolfie, he's already had this sent to him anyway. Brian's just making a wider audience aware of it. This is something he's covering. It's fine. Meanwhile, 10th still waiting. I've had Introduction to Natural Science by Carl A. Chaser.
Before we move on, could I just add, because I'm excited by this. I did this, didn't I, 4 years ago with my, you can see it on screen. I sat there, I couldn't get the pitch data, but that's what I tried to record with the recording all the movements of that bubble sex on the phone, just to see if there was any nosing down. It's what I've showed pilots, and they mess with their heads, yeah? So I think if you get this data, yeah, there's demonstrable proof that there is no pitch down. That then supports the whole of my, something that just an idea a while back, but to actually have that data would be outstanding. To know that we've got straight vector travel, and the plane's data confirms it, and that there isn't this. We know there isn't the reorientation because of the amount you would have to deal with. Yeah, but
the guy's looking for money.
Well, whatever. I'm not asked. I'm on about what Brian is doing in terms of collating data. If he gets that, it's fantastic. It's better than me sat with a bloody mobile phone with a bubble app on it, isn't it? Saying, look, it doesn't move. It just sits at these levels. That's such a powerful bit of data if he gets it. He'd struggle to. Yeah. I think he's been
he's doing
to get it for him.
He's doing exactly what I've called for flat earthers, if you so inclined, to do, which is get away from these. Well, technically, Wolfie is an anti-flat earther, but to bring this conversation to the broader public, because right now the algorithms, they got us beat. But obviously, we have information and truth on our side, but most people don't get to see what it is that we're saying. So something like that could, it could be, it would be positive.
Well, I'm not expecting anything from Wolfie, and Wolfie is not important. As I have said to Wolfie, 1 second, sorry, Solar, 1 second, Sleepy, because I didn't get to finish what I was trying to do there. Wolfie, I have said to him, because he's made offers to me that I'll debate these other pilots you're talking to, and I'll go to court, no bother, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you might have nothing to do with any court. Because my whole point is I'm going to go past him, because he's just making these ridiculous claims for years, and I'm actually trying to get the data that I've been holding him to task on. And I'm going to try and get this data and have it verified by as many professionals as I can. One of them at present who I am in contact with is a captain, right? And I'm going to pay them for their time. Even have to do GoFundMe's, whatever I have to do to pay for this. Whatever it is, right, I'll try and get the money together to pay for what I have to pay for. And the whole point is I get the data, and I can then bring that data, if needs be, into a courtroom and say, this does not prove that. Sorry.
Okay,
exactly.
Sorry
if I get angry, but
I've said it, that's it. Thank you very much for presenting it. And QE, if you wanted to draw that to a concise close, yeah, good job. 10th. Do you still want to do your presentation? I've still got it ready to go if you do.
Yes,
Yes,
I've
I'm
grown a
ready.
partial beard while waiting, but yes, I'm ready to go.
Can I ask a quick question? Very quick question.
Can I
Brian,
just-
are you making a video of this?
It's going to be a full beard soon.
Yeah, good. Owen's got a good point. No, Owen's got a good
great.
point. This is already a video
Just-
on Brian's Logic's channel. So check it out. It's already published on Brian's Logic channel.
Good to know.
And have you addressed their argument that it's equidistant from center is elevation? So therefore it would never show any angle down trajectory
Yes,
because
it
it's
would.
always just
Yes, it would.
equidistant
Yes, it
from
would.
center.
It would always show angle down. There was no way to fly around the globe in an airplane without always having a constant pitch below zero, which goes against positive lift. You can't have positive lift and fly around the globe.
But
the
this
point
has
here,
been
Brian,
discussed
isn't it?
Officially,
The point here is it's what was covered in that presentation. It's the change. If you're on a globe, the change in the orientation of down happens all the time if you're in an aeroplane. Therefore, it has impacts both on not only down, but as Brian's alluding to, the aerodynamics of the plane. You have to repitch for the plane to rework, and traveling in a straight line vector over a curved surface will generate that angular change in it, and that's what's not accounted for. That's why we want that data, because it is a really important point. It has to be accounted for. Yeah, it has to be.
So
And
Mark Sargent included this in one of his clues. I think it was probably like 100 or 50 or whatever. But he showed the side-on view from the airplane towers of an airplane achieving altitude, flying across the states, and then landing. And it was this graph that always had a flat top, as these airplanes all achieved altitude of the height they needed to be at, and they would travel for so many hours and then descend to their destination. And it was such a compelling thing back in 2016, 2017. The Globers all said that straight line that we're measuring is just equidistant from center. So the level is curved. They went back to that argument. So
Yeah,
I don't see this being a silver bullet.
Moving on, right?
solar.
That's so many things other than a perfect sphere.
Guy from hello.
Yeah.
Guy from Discord. Who was that a second ago? Solar.
That was me and Eli talking.
It was me.
Solar. So
It was citation police.
Adam's just addressed this in terms of the lift that's required. So hopefully Adam will just paraphrase what he said already.
Well, no, I'll leave it to Brian, because it's his point in terms of particularly. Mine was never about the aerodynamics, which is an even more important point for how the plane stays in the air. I was always focused on that straight line vector will have an implication if you're on a ball as to the orientation of down, which is the premise of what then Brian, go on, Brian, take into the aerodynamics.
Yeah. I'll make it very simple. When you hold your phone in portrait mode, which is vertical, and you turn it to landscape mode, which is horizontal, the screen changes because the accelerometer in your phone records a change in the direction of down. Now, that means that the plane, when you're using it, if you have an accelerometer app, a particular foreign accelerometer app on an airplane, that has to register a constant change in the direction of down, because the direction of down is changing. So if you were to fly around a curved surface, then that direction of down has to constantly change. There should be massive changes within every half hour. You should see huge changes in the direction of down. You don't. That was Adam's point. That's what Adam did. He showed there was no change in the direction of down in a flight that lasted a couple of hours. And they don't, because they have to fly with the chord line of the wings above horizontal.
But if you've got curved air...
On to 10.
No. If you've got curved air and you're flying in a straight line vector into that curved air, then the angle you're attacking the air changes that, because the air, remember, is curving around the ball to give its altitude, as was described from Discord, yeah? But it's curved. Therefore, it's curving away from you. Therefore, the angle of attack of the plane is changing, or should be changing. It doesn't. There's no mitigation in the aerodynamics. And I say over 100 kilometers, you've got huge amounts of angle changes, haven't you, that would impact on the aerodynamics of the plane, and it doesn't occur. And that's the purpose of Right, I said with my accelerometer, could I see that pitch change? And I should be able to see it because the plane has to fly between 3 and 5 degrees up, nose up. Yeah. Now, to account for any curving of the ground underneath me and change of angle of down, yeah, I have to reorientate the plane. I can't slow down and just drop my altitude. That won't reorientate the plane. That doesn't happen, and that's what this data will demonstrate.
Yeah.
And regardless of
exactly.
the Globers have been putting out for a long time that the pilot doesn't have to do it, but that's irrelevant. The plane has to physically do it. The plane must endure a constant change of attitude the entire flight, period. End of story. If it doesn't, then it's not curving.
Yep. Now, we already went over this many years ago, and everyone on the plane would feel it. Now the 10th who got a ZZ Top beard.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Solar. Thank you, Citation Police. And thank you, QE. Right, 10th.
Yeah. You got Nautical Science by Carl Chase up.
This is not science. Get out! Somebody crucify him.
Let me know when you got that cover up first.
Yes, it's up.
All right. So this book is on order. This is the online version up to a point, but the point it stopped was fantastic. Let's go to the first one. I dedicate this to Trulin, a real seeker for truth. When we measure the altitude of the sun, although we are as careful as possible, there are several reasons why the angle the sextant gives us is not the true altitude of the sun. For navigational purposes, we need the true altitude, height observed, abbreviated HO. And true altitude assumes, among other things, that our sextant is perfect, that we are standing at the center of the earth, and that we are measuring to the center of the sun. None of these is true. And so what we read directly off of the sextant, abbreviated H, I can't see it, or height sextant, HS, is not useful until we have made some corrections to account for the discrepancies. We will look at these one at a time and arrive at the sequence of steps, which we can use to correct sextant readings for true altitudes. We will need to do this for each site we take. The first thing we must take into account is whether or not the sextant itself is accurate. It may be, if it's in good quality instrument and is in good adjustment, but it's not safe to assume that it is perfect without first checking it. On the other hand, it is not necessary for the sextant to be perfect. Most are not, as long as the amount by which it is in error is known. If the error is known, next please. I try to get there myself, sorry. Here we go. Which means that the error forward is on the arc, then it must be subtracted from the angle measured by the sextant and vice versa. This is talking about the index arm if it's not sitting exactly at 0. It could be on forward on the arc, or at the part where there's no numbers, etc. This is the first correction made to height sextant. The next thing we must account for is the fact that the horizon we see is not really 90 degrees from our zenith or from the vertical, unless our eye is right at sea level. The sea level, the horizon is tangent to the sea surface and at right angles to the vertical. Am I reading slow enough? But as our height of eye gets higher, the visible horizon dips lower and lower. The higher our eye, the bigger the amount of dip angle. And it says, look at this figure. Dip is purely, listen up, dip is purely a function of our height of eye. So if that height is known, dip can be calculated. A table on the inside front of the cover of the Nautical Almanac provides the amount to dip. Dip alone is height of eye, not earth curve. The ball is dead.
With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.